580 Sports Talk coming to you on a game week Monday. That is right. Ladies and gentlemen, start your high school, college football coming up this week. Who is excited for actual football that matters? That's right. Raise your hand. Everybody, get your hand in the air and wave it around like you just don't care.
Jake, how do you feel about Pitbull? Is it too early for Pitbull?
It is never too early for Pitbull. It is never. It is game week. It is game week. We might not ever talk about the Royals ever again. Ever again. It will never be Victory Royal anything, it seems like. But who is right? I don't care that KU and K-State are both facing directional University of State. It does not matter. I don't care if they play in FBS, FCS, CBS. Does not matter who they are playing. We got high school football kicking off. We've got Washburn and Pitt State. That's on Thursday. The Ichabods travel down to Yager Stadium South to try to win 5 in a row at Carney Smith Stadium. That's right. That is a fact. They've won 4 in a row at Carney Smith Stadium. Brendan might have been in middle school the last time that they lost down at Carney Smith Stadium. 2011. Where were you, Brendan?
I was in high school. I was a junior in high school.
Okay. I'm just pointing out, like, this week's finally here.
Yeah.
Like, I am so excited. We get to see Will Howard and Jalen Daniels throw passes. I'm just pumped. I really, really am. Week 0 was here.
Yeah.
For college football, Navy's trash. We appreciate that.
Navy, big cheeks.
Yeah.
Good thing that they're really good on ships and in the water, because on a football field, they stink.
I was going to say, I put this on Twitter, but it worries me a little bit knowing Navy has a bad defense. That worries me a little bit.
It does, because
bad vibes.
It's on land. It's on land, Brandon. Imagine SEAL Team 6 in the water going up against Notre Dame.
Well, they're pretty good on land, too. Yeah,
I'm much more comfortable jumping to the Navy is cheeks conclusion than I am the Notre Dame might be that deal conclusion. That makes me uncomfortable. I don't want to do that.
On that. We'll have to wait and see on that. The Royals still stink. The Chiefs, we're going to get into plenty of Chiefs talk as well. We'll recap the weekend, continue with our over-unders. Matt Verderame will join us to talk about the NFL. Lots to get to. We're going to start previewing Big 12 football this week, as all Big 12 teams in action. Will lead into that to KU K-State coming up this week. It's a great time. It is an absolute great time. The weather this week here is going to be so much better. If you can't get excited for this week, well, then
if they don't light your fire, your wood's wet.
Yes. Yep. Go put your wood under a tent or something to dry it out or something of that nature. So I am excited. Let's do this, and we'll start with a lot of Chiefs talk today. But first, let us know your thoughts. Hit us up on our text line, 785-272-9429. You can also check us out on YouTube. Easy to get to. Go to youtube.com. Search 580 Sports Talk. Click the subscribe button. We'll be doing a lot of videos during the season when it comes to reactions for high school, Washburn, KU, K-State, Chiefs, all of that on our YouTube page. Should be a lot of fun. So stop on by, hit the subscribe button, let us know your thoughts here on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. All right, Chiefs gearing up for roster cutdown day in 26 hours from right now, 4:00 Central Time tomorrow. We will have the roster for the Kansas City Chiefs. Brett Veach will meet with the media on Wednesday. We're going to go through our final roster predictions today. But they had a game on Saturday. They did. No injuries. Huge.
That's all that really.
That's huge.
Leo Chanel with the hip, but not a huge deal.
He's fine. Plus, it's our fourth string, not fourth string, but number 4 linebacker. If the only injury is your number 4 linebacker in that game,
if the only thing suffered in a preseason game to a guy you thought was going to be on your 53 is like a jammed hip for your fourth string linebacker. You came out of the preseason, you accomplished everything you wanted to accomplish in the preseason.
The biggest injury in the preseason for any Chief is Najee Johnson, or is it Jody Fortson? Because both of them are going to be put on IR. Which one is it?
I'm going to go with Najee Johnson.
Yeah, okay,
I feel like
Johnson.
he's the hardest one to replace.
I mean, if you think about it, Najee Johnson is what, CB5?
Something like that, yeah.
Well, maybe he was CB3, you know, if he played that well. But overall, the Chiefs were very, very healthy this preseason, which is great to see. You expect Leo Chanel to be just fine. I thought that was really, really good. No real big injuries. Some people played well. Some people didn't. Two big takeaways that I do have. I'm telling you, I'm liking what I'm seeing from Felix Anudike-Uzomah. Maybe I'm the only one. Maybe I got the purple Kool-Aid that's I'm drinking right now. But he got after the quarterback a couple times again, and that is fantastic to see coming from your number one draft pick, who you didn't think would make a huge impact early on because he is a little bit of a late bloomer, kind of a little bit of a project for the Chiefs, considering where they drafted him and who they've got. I think he might help this team. I really, really do. So I think the preseason for Felix Anudike-Uzomah has been really, really good. I really thought he bull rushed well. I understand it is most of the time against the second stringers, but the second string Chiefs off defense went up against the first string Browns offense.
Yeah, the Browns didn't take any plays off.
On
Saturday.
And I thought Anudike-Uzomah did an okay job against some of the number ones that they had. I really did like that. No injuries. Anudike-Uzomah played well. And then the other question I've got, and it's a confidence issue, but Rashee Rice had 3 drops. He had a drop in a previous game. This is a guy who never dropped a pass in college. I remember, Brendan, you said when the Chiefs drafted him, you're like, this dude is sure-handed. You like this guy can catch it yards after the catch.
Mm-hmm.
Never really dropped any in college. He's got 4 or 5 drops already in the preseason. And I don't know if that's nerves or if this is the yips for a wide receiver, but 2 of them were just easy catches. One was on a screen pass. You just got to catch it. The other one was a deep ball. Sometimes the wide open ones are the toughest ones to catch. I will admit that, but this is not normal for him. Is this a concern? Is this oh, don't worry, it's the preseason, or this is abnormal for Rashee Rice? This is abnormal for him because he doesn't drop balls.
Yeah, I will just come out and say I'm not worried at all about this. For a couple of reasons. One, it happens. Sometimes guys slump. There's a certain top 5 wide receiver in the NFL who Mike Florio wet himself daily over a couple of preseasons ago. Goes, oh, you can't catch the ball. Oh, Bengals should have taken Penei Sewell. Jamar Chase already a bust. Well, 1, you're a moron. 2, no, he's one of the 5 best receivers in the NFL. I don't worry about this. The other reason why, and this is part of why Chase has panned out, getting to me as an evaluator and analyst of NFL football, getting open is more important than having good hands. I genuinely believe that because it is more being able to separate is going to put you in more good positions or in good positions more often to be able to make plays. And frankly, while the 1 drop Rice had on Saturday, it was an abomination. I'll be blunt about that. It was right over his head. He should have just turned around and fielded it like a punt. It was a very easy ball to catch. He did not catch it. But generally speaking, the more open you are, the easier it is to catch balls because there's not hands right in your face. There's not someone poking at the ball to get it away from you. If you are able to, on a consistent basis, get open, and I think Rice has shown us that in a limited sample so far, that he is very adept at getting open and creating separation. That's why the Chiefs drafted him. Same reason they drafted Moore a year ago is the separation ability in the intermediate levels. That is the most important skill I think a wide receiver can have. So for his first year or 2, and maybe it'll be a problem his whole career, maybe he doesn't have great hands. Maybe he's just an average catcher in the NFL. Something's wrong with the chemistry when he catches the ball from Mahomes. He doesn't read it right. I don't know. But the fact that he is able to get open so often, mixed with the fact that he was not exactly a drop machine at SMU, makes me think this is no big deal. And I saw it on Twitter this weekend. Some Chiefs fan account was going on and on about how worried he was, to the point where he's like, I'm taking Justin Ross over Rashee Rice on my depth chart. Like, be serious. Please be serious with yourself.
Especially because nobody would have said that after game 2 of the preseason when Rice was tremendous. Like this preseason is the ultimate in small sample size theater, and we tend to overreact to what we see. Either a guy's the greatest ever and he's going to get a larger target share, or, oh, he dropped a pass or two and we got to cut him. He can't stick. He doesn't have what it takes. I remember the Jamar Chase discourse too. It was preposterous. Like, wow, he left LSU and forgot how to catch football. No, he didn't forget how to catch football. Chiefs fans maybe wish he'd forgotten how to catch football, but he has not, in fact, forgotten how to do that. And I don't think Rashee Rice has either.
They got a lot of depth at wide receiver, which was nice to see again. But the game Saturday was kind of normal.
Yeah, I just to one of the points you mentioned, I agree entirely that I think Felix Anudike-Uzomah is going to help the Chiefs team, and I think he's going to be a factor in the rotation. I'm not expecting him to get the quote-unquote redshirt year. I do wonder, given the fact that he is a little bit slighter coming off the edge, that the grind of a full 17-game schedule, there will, in all likelihood, be some lulls. It is hard for rookies to step in and be great up. Like George Karlaftis last year was about as good as you could ever hope to see from a rookie edge rusher who's not like a real freak, like a Donald or a Bosa.
One of those top 5 picks. Like, you have to temper your expectations for Felix Anudike-Uzomah appropriately, because he was the 31st overall pick in the draft. He wasn't top 5. He wasn't top 10. If you draft a guy late first round, what you should expect is not that he's going to light the league on fire. What you should expect is probably, by and large, what we saw in the preseason. We saw some flashes. We saw some ability. We saw some of the things he's going to be able to do well right off the bat, which is some of the speed rush stuff. We also saw him get washed out of some plays. And that's going to happen because that happens to rookies in the National Football League. I think, by and large, again, I think we're pinning a lot on Felix early in his career because of the unfortunate reality that he's going to play a lot of snaps, be leaned on to play more snaps than maybe you'd like because of the Charles Omenihu suspension the first 6 weeks of the season. But what I saw from Felix Anudike-Uzomah in the preseason is what I'd expect to see from him in the regular season. We're going to see some flashes. We're going to see a little bit of production. We're also going to see some plays where he gets beat, where he gets washed out of a play, where he's in the wrong space, because that's what happens to rookies in the NFL.
The other things of note for me, well, one, the injuries. Great that there aren't many, but honestly, and this is a good problem to have, makes cut downs that much harder. It's harder to have guys to stash on IR, or, it makes these position battles really mean a whole lot more. So it adds a little extra intrigue in the next 24 hours. A couple depth things here. I don't think there was any doubt about this. Matt Derrick's been on this bandwagon. We've talked about it a bunch on this show. The Chiefs are keeping 3 quarterbacks. And the reason I say that for sure after this week is that Buechele went in before Gabbert again. Gabbert's not going anywhere. The Chiefs want to have the vet. They want to have the experienced, solid, steady.
I think he is
guy.
the backup. I think he's the backup right now.
And the fact that Buechele played in front of him, I think means Buechele's also. Now, if Buechele had played and Gabbert hadn't played all preseason and it was truly a sink or swim thing, maybe this feels different. But knowing Gabbert's 99.9% safe, and Buechele played in front of him, makes me think they're going to end up keeping 3.
I think they're keeping 3 just because they kept 3 last year. I think this is what they want.
Tragic that Oladokin's not one of them. Was really pulling for him.
I think this is
if they ordered
easiest to determine that they're keeping 3.
If they ordered the quarterback depth chart in how much fun their names were to say, it would be QB1 Chris Oladokin.
Yes, fact, 100% fact. National champion Chris Oladokin. Also, if the Chiefs, he won a national championship. South Dakota State. Aren't you Mr. Missouri Valley football?
That is true.
Damn.
That is true.
If the Chiefs do indeed keep a 4th running back, which I am not sold that they will, we'll get to that in the 4:00 hour, it's going to be Michael Pirine. I am fairly convinced. Now, I think some combination of Prince and Pirine are going to end up on the practice squad, possibly both of them, which again gives you 6 weeks of free protected call-ups, which could be very valuable, especially if there's an injury. But I think that Perine has won that battle so far. He looked better in actual game action, I thought, than Deneric Prince did. And given the fact, as we've been over numerous times now, that Prince really fell out of favor over the course of camp in special teams, I think that helps out Perine's case. So if there's an RB4, I think it's LaMichael Perine.
Yeah, I think that's easily evident, especially because Richie James is your kick returner and punt returner, and you only need one of those. So Deneric Prince is
7 wide receivers are a lock, and
Yeah.
you can send Prince to the practice squad more readily. I think the question is, do they keep the 4th running back or do they keep the 4th tight end? I think that's the it's I think maybe down to LaMichael Perine or Matt Bushman, I think, at this point for that final skill player spot.
What did you catch from the game on Saturday?
I loved this tweet from yesterday afternoon from Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who, by the way, I don't know if you guys know this, but his Twitter bio reads undefeated in NBA Street Volume 2. That's what it's.
I did know that.
Yeah, that's what he wants people to know about him. You know, most people, most NFL players, wide receiver for the whoever, number whatever, God first, fam first, hashtag rise and grind, all that stuff. No, MVS just wants you to know you're not seeing him in NBA Street Volume 2. He's got that on lockdown. Anyway, he tweeted this yesterday afternoon. Idle thought from MVS. NFL, make the roster like 58 or something. We got too many dogs in the wide receiver room to not be on the team.
Dog spelled DAWGS.
Yes, not DOGS, which is a negative connotation.
Correct.
Or at least it used to be.
Yes.
Like it used to be, if you had that dog in you, it meant you dogged it, meant you were not good. Now having that dog in you is a good thing. I used to be with it. Now they changed what it was, and now what's it? Now what I'm with isn't it, and what's it seems weird and scary to me. Anyway,
am I out of touch, or is it the children that are wrong?
Anyway,
the answer is they're young and ridiculous.
Goat used to be bad too, and now it's good. So language changes over time. You gotta love English. Anyhow, my takeaway. They got a lot of dogs in the wide receiver room. Like, it's really hard to cut Amir Smith-Marset. Really, really hard to say you're not one of the best 7 wide receivers on this team. But he's not one of the best 7 wide receivers on this team, and you're not keeping 8. So good luck to ISM, I guess, would be his 3 initial abbreviation. I think he'll catch on somewhere, and I think he's going to maybe help an offense as a wide receiver 4 or a wide receiver 5. But he's not one of the 7 best wide receivers on this Chiefs team, which is a testament to the level of talent they have assembled in that room. It's really impressive.
Getting cut and then going through waivers is hard to go through waivers as we talk about, because you don't know the playbook. You're going into a new system. People have their guys, right? I think this is a guy who's not making it through waivers. I think somebody's going to pick him up. There's too much film on him, and I think he will be in a uniform somewhere else.
Because it'd be one thing if he'd never been in an NFL game. Like, he's played in the league. He's gotten some games. So, like, there's a proven commodity aspect to him. Not obviously hugely proven. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gotten to the Chiefs in the first place in the way that he did. But, yeah, I think he's going to catch on somewhere else. One other guy I want to talk about, if I may, maybe my favorite player of the preseason for the Chiefs. Danny Shelton is playing his tail off. And it impresses me so much because Danny Shelton, not a small man, first and foremost.
He's lost weight, too.
Gigantic fire hydrant of a man who has already had a lengthy NFL career. He's got a ring. Like, he was a first-round pick, if my memory serves. He was a first-round pick, right? So,
out of Baylor, I believe.
I think you're right. So, there's nothing for Danny Shelton to prove at this point. He could go out and go through the motions and, hey, if I make the team, I make the team, because I'm former first-round pick Danny Shelton, and I am built physically in such a way that makes me useful just by virtue of my mere presence on the football field. He could absolutely have gone through the motions this preseason. Nobody would have blamed him. Nobody would have batted an eye, and he would have made the team or he wouldn't have made the team, and we wouldn't have noticed either way. He played his tail off in this preseason. He moved around out there like a man possessed. He was out there like he was a rookie. Like, he's out there working as hard on his snaps, trying to make an impact on his snaps. I gained a ton of regard for Danny Shelton through this preseason. And I think he is going to make the 53-man roster. And he's damn well earned it.
And that's, I think, the benefit of Chris Jones not being around is it has essentially opened up a spot for these other guys where the Chiefs can say, hey, look, here's your opportunity. Here is your chance. Go make it happen. And he has, and I appreciate that. By the way, he went to Washington.
Washington.
Who was I thinking that went to
was it the guard that was a firefighter?
Yeah, that's the other. Yeah, last name with the That's you and I are thinking the same guy. He only was in the league for like a couple of years.
By the way, we didn't even talk about
Danny
the best.
Watkins.
Yeah,
that's who we got him confused with.
We didn't even talk about the best part of Amir Smith-Marsette's weekend. Did you all see the quote that Amir Smith-Marsette gave our pal Jesse Newell?
Yeah.
I cannot repeat what he said because our station would be fined and I would be fired.
Can you sanitize what he said?
I can. Jesse, so he gave a quote, Amir Smith-Marsette did, about he knows who he is, essentially a comment about why he should make the team. And Jesse, the prudent reporter that he is, said, okay, well, who are you? Who are you saying that you are? And Amir Smith-Marsette responded by saying, one of the baddest bleeps in the league. One of the baddest 12-letter word beginning with M in the league. Awesome quote. Incredible quote. He was also rocking the throwback Florida Marlins hat. Great vibe in the locker room on Saturday.
The black or the teal?
The teal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, great look.
Yeah, that is.
I do agree, though. I think he is the rare case where someone is going to pick him up. And that's also where the Chiefs, Andy Reid's playbook kind of comes into effect. Everyone around the league, even an idiot like myself, knows this is a really complex playbook for wide receivers because you have to know, if you're out there at a 4-wide set, you have to know every single route or every single choice route that every receiver and tight end is running. You need to know all the coverages for all those spots. It is really complex. I would put the Chiefs and probably the 49ers up there as the most complex for wide receivers in the whole league. So if you are a team that you're the Bears, team who has had Amir Smith-Marsette before, so maybe that's not a great example, but a team that needs a wide receiver, that went through the preseason and realized, damn, our group sucks. A guy who has proven that he learned the system well, that he knows the system, he can thrive in that system and thrive with any kind of quarterback. That's the kind of guy you want to add here in the next 24 hours. So I do think he will end up on a 53. New Orleans, I'll call my shot. Saints. Okay. They have like one wide receiver and 5 tight ends on their roster.
Denver, another team with the same problem.
Yeah. They might just try to add all the Chiefs cast-offs.
Well, eventually you run out of Saints cast-offs to add.
That's true.
So
that's very true. Hey, Frank Clark, how close was your locker to Amir Smith-Marsette? I don't know. It was somewhere. Good enough. You're in.
We will go to our specific roster predictions coming up in the 4:00 hour. A lot to get to. The latest of Chris Jones. We'll get to that next. latest news on Chris Jones is that one of his agents, I don't know which one, but a cat's brother, that's Katz, not like cat as in like feline. No, one of the cat's brothers was and could still be in Kansas City. He was at Joe's eating some barbecue.
Great move.
So, does that mean anything? I don't know. Now, here's the other thing that I do know. In order to get the game check for week 1, you have to report by Tuesday, I believe. So if you're going to show up for week 1, you better show up Tuesday. Because if you show up Wednesday or Thursday, then you ain't going to get paid. So why show up at that point in time? You know what I mean? I believe it's Tuesday, the week of the game, that you have to report if you want the game check. It's not like, oh, I showed up on Thursday at 4 o'clock at the stadium. You're going to get paid. That's not the case.
It'd be funny if you could, though.
So, to me, the next deadline is Tuesday. Not this Tuesday, not the one, tomorrow. It's next Tuesday. All right. September September the 5th. That's when Chris Jones would have to show up to get paid his $1.2 or $1.3 million. If he wants to get paid on the 7th. Now, the other thing to point out, and we'll get to our roster construction in the 4 o'clock hour. You can put a guy on the has not reported to the team section of your 53-man roster. You can do that. The Chiefs haven't. The Chiefs have not done that. So does that give you a little bit more, they're going to finally hammer something out and make it work? Or are they not? That's the latest we know with Chris Jones. Like, that's literally it. Cat's brother was in Kansas City eating Joe's.
Maybe he just wanted barbecue. I mean, that could mean nothing at all. Or it could mean, and I think it's more likely that it means that this is the time. What do you always say, Jake? What's one of your favorite sayings? Deadline spur action. Heard that from you many, many times. And it's true. And we're coming up on a deadline for Chris Jones. And we're coming up on a deadline for the Chiefs. Because for all the posturing, and I guess posturing is not quite right, because there hasn't been a lot of that publicly. There hasn't been a lot of, chest thumping. The Chiefs haven't publicly said, yeah, we're fine without Chris Jones. We don't, he'll sign or he won't sign. There haven't been a lot of posturing like that from the Chiefs. And whatever posturing Chris Jones is doing might just be Twitter trolling, social media trolling. So there's been a lot of posturing on either side. But for all of that, the Chiefs damn well know they're a better football team with Chris Jones. And they want to take the field and raise the banner and beat fire out of the Detroit Lions and make a statement that they're going to be the team to beat in 2023. And that's way easier with number 95 on the field than without it.
I thought you were going to say bring cardboard if you're sitting at a game in the snow. I thought that was the catchphrase you might be going with.
Sit on that, though. Stand on that, for real. Like, you're joking about that right now, Brennan? You've been sitting in your fancy press boxes? No. I'm going to write a book, okay? And it's going to have all of my correct opinions on a lot.
The wit and wisdom of Jake LeBon.
Yeah. Throwing the fade is okay if you got a quarterback who can throw it and somebody who can catch it, all right? I hate everybody who says throwing the fade is stupid. Oh, really? Throwing the fade to Calvin Johnson was stupid? No, that play was excellent.
There aren't that many Calvin Johnsons.
There's not, but there is. Just say you don't. I'm not going to lie to you. Throwing a fade to Justin Ross might not be a bad idea coming up. We kind of saw that here, in the last game. I'm not saying I do it right away, but do I think Patrick Mahomes can throw the fade? Yeah. Patrick Mahomes can.
You trust him to make all those throws?
I'd like to think that. But if Colt McCoy is throwing a fade to, shoot, I don't even know, Cardinals wide receiver.
Well, he's not throwing any fades to anybody. He don't have a team anymore.
If Clayton Tune is throwing it to, Keys Piano, no, that's not a good idea. But yeah, there's a lot of takes I got. But the deadline to me is Tuesday, not this Tuesday, the 5th, because that's when you need to get paid. He's not playing, but 30% of the snaps if he ends up coming to camp or coming to practice.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is evident. Also, we'll talk about this next week. I am not worried about the Chiefs offense. We've gone through the history of the Chiefs offense in opening games. Whatever chef's terminology you want to fricassee, flambe, cook, barbecue, pick one, roast. They're going to do that to the Colts or to the Lions defense. Okay. The question is, can the Chiefs hold the Lions to 40 points without Chris Jones? The Chiefs destroy people in week 1. Nobody has an idea of what's going to happen to them week 1. And they're going to get destroyed. So the Chiefs are scoring 35. Can they hold the Lions to 34 with 33% Chris Jones?
Yes.
That's the answer for week 1. Then week 2, 3, and 4, a little different. But go back and look. And I'll have to pull that up, the stats that I pulled up, though. But like every opening game for the Chiefs, they score like 30. It's incredible. It really, really is. But that's the latest on Chris Jones, which is his agent.
His agent likes the Z-Man.
His agent was in town. And you'd like to think that, hey, they're there to hammer out a deal. But we'll wait and see.
What's your go-to at Joe's?
Anything. Like it depends. It depends on how hungry I am. If I'm like starving, I get the platter because I want everything.
Yeah, the last 2 times I've gone, once I got the jumbo Z-Man, and then once I got the cowboy platter, which is just a plate of everything.
Yeah, like it depends on how hungry you are. Also, Are you taking it to go? Because if you're taking it to go, you order like 2 meals, and then you eat the meal as leftovers the next day.
I generally prefer to eat in. Mostly because I don't live in Kansas City, so if I take it to go, it gets cold.
You re-rack those ribs, though. You can reheat those.
Well,
in the oven. You do those in the oven. Yeah, I've done that before.
But now that you got, I got a toaster now, not like a normal toaster, but like a toaster, toasting fries.
Ooh. Like a toaster oven?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of nice.
Air fryer, great for reheating fries.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, and Joe's
good fries
the next day. Better than most fresh.
That's fair.
I would say
that's fair.
Chris Jones at 80% is probably better than fully percent FAU.
Yeah, they get him signed this week and he plays 25, 30 snaps.
Cool.
Yeah.
You
take that.
We'll get our roster construction coming up. We'll also talk with Matt Verderame, get his final thoughts before cut down day. Lots more to get to on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Coming up next, we recap the weekend with the good, the bad, the ugly. Time for the good, the bad, and the ugly for the weekend that was. My good for the weekend is there was a, whether or not you like or dislike, I don't mind it. That seems cool. The kids seem to have fun, but I know a lot of people don't like the Little League World Series, which I just might need to have someone explain that to me, why they don't like it. So I know a little bit more, but there's been a lot more heat about like, oh, they're exploiting the kids and all that kind of stuff.
Your friend and mine and former WWW 580 Sports Talk host Alex Gold, virulently anti-Little League World Series.
Like, I don't know, but either way.
Which is a weird thing to be virulent about, but he was.
Louis Lappy hit a walk-off home run to win the Little League World Series for his team in California.
That boy should have hooped instead of playing baseball. He's tall as hell.
Like,
it's huge.
Can you
17-year-old playing the game?
I mean, we've seen that before.
Well,
Danny Almonte.
I remember Danny Almonte.
He was 14, yes.
That was
awesome.
That's so cool.
Here's
like you're growing up. That's like the dream of Little League World Series, right?
Here is my piece of advice for anyone who is super against the Little League World Series. Don't watch it. That is my number one like societal complaint. Currently, I have many, but currently, like, oh, I hate this. I don't like. It happens with sports TV a lot. Why do they keep talking about this? Why change the host on Sports Center? I hate the Little League World Series. Hey, there's 84 million channels. Peacock alone added like 90 shows and movies last week, bro. Turn something else on. Go for a walk. Spend time with your kids. Give me a break. Go do something with your life.
That's perfect.
How do you think it feels to wake up this morning and you're Louis Lappy and you're 12 years old and you've done the coolest thing you're ever going to do in your life?
It's all downhill, man.
I don't need to strive. I don't need to achieve. I can coast the rest of my life if I want, because I hit a walk-off home run to win the Little League
12
World
years
Series.
old, what, 6th grade?
Yeah.
Yes. 6th graders?
Going into 6th grade, probably.
I was
Or
12
7th.
in 6th grade.
6th grade?
I think. Yeah. Yeah, I was 12.
Some of those kids turn 13 pretty soon.
Yeah. Some of those kids also
Right
started
now.
shaving last week.
Pretty soon as in like maybe a month ago.
Have you ever seen the one like funny video where it's like, hi, my name is Josh Eric and my favorite player is Aaron Judge. The next guy walks over and says, hi, my name is John Smith. I'm 12 and my favorite player is Mark McGuire.
Listen, some of us were late bloomers, okay? Not everyone has a deep voice at 12.
But they're making fun of like some of these kids look like they're 18.
There was that one kid. So a lot of those teams from the international teams are from like military bases, military installments. That's how you get like sometimes Germany or sometimes the Czech Republic, and it's like a bunch of American kids. There was one year, like I think it was like the United Arab Emirates used to send a team pretty frequently. They had a military base there. They had a good team, and they had a kid who was legitimately the size of a Division I offensive guard. He was a legit 6'2", 285.
Funny. What was your good for the weekend?
I had a two-part good. One, Jordan Wicks, former Kansas State Wildcat,
cool.
Awesome in his first start for the Cubs, who need an arm badly, like need somebody who is competent, because we're kind of short on those right now. He was incredible. Gave up one run in the first inning, lights out after that. So cool. Striking out everybody. It ruled. Also, Tyson Pumachan, the starting quarterback of UMass, was a high 4-star, if not 5-star recruit a few years ago at Clemson. Didn't play. They've had some good quarterbacks you may have heard of. Transferred to Georgia Tech. Didn't play because they're run by idiots. Ended up at UMass. He is the week 0 Heisman. Unbelievable. He's probably the best athlete UMass has had in like 30 years.
The Laotian in motion.
It was incredible to watch.
He's from he is Laotian American, a country of Laos, and is already in the Laotian American Sports Hall of Fame.
Really?
Him and his brothers.
Incredible.
Because I believe he has 2 brothers who've also played Division I football or have played college football. He is obviously like the biggest deal of the 3, Clemson recruit. But he's that deal, man.
Yeah.
New Mexico State looks stuck in the mud trying to go get that kid.
Jerry Kill, not a good debut.
UMass, well, he was there before.
Not a good season debut.
Okay. See, I thought you meant his debut there.
Yeah.
He got a big tattoo. that said New Mexico State bowl game champions. With guns and everything. But yeah, Tyson Pumachan, awesome. That was UMass's first FBS win since 2018. Pretty wild. Good for them. Good for the Minutemen.
I got 2 entries for good as well. Number 1, 10-man Liverpool rallying from 1-0 down on the road at Blood Money Newcastle to win 2-1.
Up the Reds.
The chaos himbo himself, Darwin Nunez, with both goals.
That I saw that. And I thought, oh, Liverpool won. That's really cool. And then I briefly clicked on it because I was like, is your boy Salah scoring goals? And I saw that they were down a man. And I was like, wait a minute.
For most of the match, Virgil van Dijk got red carded, I think, in the 28th minute.
Yeah, they were down a man and down 1-0 and won.
And played so poorly, frankly, that I turned the match off at halftime. I had some floors that needed vacuuming. And my good buddy, who's a big Premier League fan, texted me in the 85th minute after Nunez scored the first one, said, hey, you may want to turn this back on. And I did. I took his advice and I saw the winner and I was very happy. The other thing, you mentioned college football being back. I love that college football is back. Zachariah Branch. That, to me, is the week 0 Heisman Trophy winner. That is a true freshman who scored a receiving touchdown and also returned a kick for a touchdown for USC. It looked like Reggie Bush out there. When you like, that's the kind of stuff that reminds me, look, there's a lot of stupid stuff happening in the world of college football. And there are a lot of people that will bemoan the state of college football, or college football is dying, this, that, and the third. You show me a true freshman running circles around grown men in his first college game at the Los Angeles Coliseum, man, that's the beauty of college football right there. Zachariah Branch was electrifying. Yeah, also, shout out to San Jose State for the cover plus 30.5. That was a lucrative one for me.
The ability of a true freshman to look like that, though, those guys are special. Yeah, I cannot stress that enough. There's a reason why those guys are the way they are. The bad. All right. This weekend, part of the good, I took my son and my daughter to the Spider-Man exhibit in Kansas City.
Okay.
Son loves Spidey. Loves it. Oh my gosh. I've never seen him so happy. Afterwards, we were going to stop and eat. And we just want to do something simple and easy. So we stopped at Chili's. Okay. I love their chicken crispers. They're fantastic. Until they're not. Folks.
What?
They changed their chicken crisper recipe.
What?
Yes. Like
say it ain't so.
Yes. Like Lindsay and I both love the crispers because their batter is so unique, and everything. And the way that they are. And my kids love chicken fingers, so I'm like, perfect. We'll just get 2 orders of chicken crispers. Kids can eat it. Fantastic. They come out. I didn't even have to say to the waiter, what happened to my crispers? She's like, what's wrong? I said, no, nothing. And I turned and I looked at my wife and I was like, the hell is this? And they changed their breading. They are a generic crisper. It's not crisper anymore. It's a finger.
From DallasObserver.com.
Oh my God. There's zero reason to go to Chili's now.
Wow. That is Southwestern egg roll erasure.
I don't care. Like, I could not believe both Lindsay and I were just devastated.
I've got a Chili's in my apartment. It's called our Kenmore microwave. Like, come on.
They had they're not the same. They literally look like any other chicken finger now.
From DallasObserver.com. They're apparently headquartered in Dallas. Oh, the humanity. Chili's changes its beloved chicken crispers. Fans crush.
Yes. I'm trying to think of another time when an eating establishment changed their menu to the point where I got nothing. There's no reason to go there.
Well, now you can just go to Applebee's or 800 other of the same restaurants. We know what we need around here at TGI Fridays. I would hit up a TGI Fridays.
Here's the thing. I agree with you, and you're not wrong. But they had something that's unique.
Fair.
And that
Fair
was
enough.
the crisper.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I the whole way home, I'm still crushed.
I can tell.
Yeah.
Your disappointment is palpable. My bad. It's not really a bad.
CRISPR situation.
Well, that's obviously bad, clearly. At the behest of my doctor badgering me for 3 years at this point, I've got a continuous glucose monitor on my arm. It just is nonstop checking my blood sugar. One, I gave myself major anxiety because there's a little needle on the end of it that has to go in you. That's how it
works.
Yeah. And I freaked myself out. I went like a whole day not able to put it on. I would put it up to my arm and go like, I can't do this. I can't do this. Eventually I got it on. It's fine.
Is it like permanently attached to you now?
No, this one is a 10-day model. So in 10 days, it tells me to change it, although I'm on a trial basis. I might not keep it. But after 10 days, it'll just fall off. The adhesive stops and it just falls off, which is fine. It's working.
You shed your skin and you generate a new one.
Yeah, molting pretty much. Like, I'm totally healthy. The numbers are all fine. But now my phone yells at me either if I go like 1 unit above or below the healthy range.
Do you have to hold it to it to get your reading?
No, it's just Bluetooth, just automatically connects to my phone. But if my phone is more than 20 feet away from me at any time, it yells at me.
Oh, man.
Or if you close the app, instant push notification. Do not close the app. We can't get a reading open now. Constantly. I'm trying to look at my screen less. And now I can't.
Hey, this is kind of like some Big Brother stuff going on. So are we thinking are we keeping this? Are we moving forward?
I don't know. This was the first time when I went to the doctor last week or 2 weeks ago in 13 years of having it that my doctor said, oh, yeah, you're checking your blood sugar enough. First time in 13 years. Usually I'm just like, yeah, I'm sure it's fine. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe. Okay. I feel like it's weird, though, because it's on my arm at all times.
At all times, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Bad for me. The best relief pitcher in baseball blew out his elbow over the weekend, and it was a situation that maybe didn't need to happen. It was not necessary for the Orioles to score 2 runs in the bottom of the 8th and take the lead on the Rockies Friday night. They just could have let the Rockies have one. Like, you got enough wins, Orioles. Let the Rockies have one. But anyway, they go ahead in the bottom of the 8th, and Felix Bautista, who has generated 2.8 wins above replacement this year, which is tops among all relievers. He is a giant man who throws 102 miles an hour. And in that light, maybe it's not so surprising that his elbow blew up. But that happened with him and the Orioles 1 strike away from victory. He threw ball 2 to the hitter, and his elbow went kersproing, and he's got UCL damage, and that's probably going to cost him at least the rest of this season, and maybe all the next, and that sucks.
It blows.
Real quick, my ugly Arizona State Athletic Director Ray Anderson imposing a self-imposed postseason ban without even telling the football coach. Buddy, come on.
I don't think he's very good at his job.
No,
Ray
he
Anderson
stinks.
Counterpoint, big brain move to do the postseason ban in a year where you might win 4 games.
Yeah.
Great move. My ugly Ryan Preece, NASCAR driver. One of the scariest car wrecks I have seen. Flipped over 10 times. Thankfully, he's okay.
That wreck was so violent and so long, I half expected it to be interrupted by an Applebee's commercial, like in Talladega.
Like in Talladega Nights. Yeah, that was very scary. I'm glad he's okay.
Yeah, that was my ugly, too. That was horrifying, but also just goes to show you, like, how safe they make those cars now. It is remarkable he got out of that car. And thank God he did, but it is genuinely remarkable.
My thing rolled over, and I remember watching it going, it's still going.
Yeah. I saw people tweeting about it before I saw a video of the actual crash, and then, I was not prepared for it.
That was not good.
Also ugly, the Pro Football Hall of Fame's tweet about Boltman looking solemnly at Junior Seau's plaque.
Did you see this?
Boltman.
Yeah.
You can't look solemnly when you're Boltman and you have one facial expression, and it's not solemn.
It's not.
I need Boltman visiting all of America's memorials at this point.
Boltman at the Trinity site.
Coming up, we got our Chiefs over-unders. We'll go around the NFL. Matt Derrick will join us to talk all things NFL as well. Coming up in the 3 o'clock hour here on 580 Sports. 580 Sports Talk, hour number 2 on this Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. Jake LeBon along with Brendan Dorzinski, Dan Lucero with you.
You know why this day stinks? Really the only down thing about this day.
The Royals play?
No. There's no Mitch Holthus. We've gone a month talking to Mitch Holthus every single weekday. I've gotten to hear from Mitchie the Kid every weekday for a month.
What would happen if Mitch Holthus drank Red Bull?
We'd have the longest conversation about the mid-2010s Missouri Valley Conference you've ever heard. I would know everything from the 2012 Creighton Media Guide. Unbelievable information about Southern Illinois' peak years. We'd hear all about Mitch's favorite teams in both Kansas and Texas high school football. Found out this year that he's a big Dave Campbell's Texas football reader.
I can see that.
Yeah, big fan. We know how much he loves Kansas high school football. Hear a lot about Smith Center, a lot about Silver Lake.
Yep.
Fittingly, 2 darn good programs.
A lot of titles.
We did get Mitch's Smith Center preview earlier this year, too, by the way. We get so much information from Mitch talking to him every day.
Yeah.
It's a big void
that's
now.
Non-Red Bull Mitch. That's kind of the point that I'm getting at.
What do you think his favorite thing to cook is?
I think it's putting together the perfect salad bar plate at the Hy-Vee.
Yeah,
there's an art to it.
I asked him a while back if he's a cook and like who cooks more at home, he or his wife, and he said that a lot of the times during non-football season he cooks. And I asked because Abby wasn't home that day, and I was gonna fend for myself, and I was like, "Well, I can cook, but
dry cereal it is."
No, that's right.
Husband meal.
Oh yeah, big time husband meal. But Mitch said no. He
Peanut butter toast.
said he's a darn good cook. Said one of his favorite things to cook is stir fry. I was not expecting that at all.
Got a mean walk game.
Yeah, was not expecting him to say stir fry.
But in defense, stir fry is a very basic thing. You just put in vegetables and rice and throw some teriyaki sauce, and you got stir fry in a pot that's like angle shaped.
Listen, I've never done it, so I've
never tried it either. There's only but so adventurous I'm willing to be.
But yeah, that is.
Meanwhile, in the next segment, Dan and I were like, "Yeah, we can't cook pasta or like store leftovers." So,
do you remember the time when you didn't have Tupperware?
Vividly.
And one of our coworkers at the time, Amber, on air brought in Tupperware.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like a 144 piece set.
Yeah.
That cost her. I was like, what did that cost? She's like, $8.
I used that a lot. I used it frequently. Amber did a very nice thing for me.
Do you still not have a toaster?
We did, but then got rid of it.
So
what do you?
It's a whole thing.
No, I need
drop a couple of pieces of Wonder Bread on the broil setting in the oven. Same difference.
Wait a minute. What do you? Yeah, don't have enough room for this 2-bread toaster.
See, my wife is the opposite. She made me keep made me get rid of my toaster oven. My toaster oven was pretty old. I suggested we get another toaster oven. She's like, "Well, I like just the toaster. We have a toaster and we have an oven.
We live in an old apartment building. It's 60 years old, 50 something years old. Okay, I don't think it's been refurbished many times. Okay, prior to me moving in, there are occasionally. It's grassy and sometimes muddy, depending on the weather in the area around. And during the springtime, sometimes little creatures that should be outside like to move inside.
Oh, no.
And sometimes you have to call professionals who come in with a big canister and a big spray nozzle, and they have to spray parts of your kitchen.
Okay.
And when you have a wife who is not a big fan of those little creatures that should be outside and finds them in the toaster, you got to get rid of the toaster.
Oh, so what was it?
Pulled out the crumb tray, and there were some new friends inside.
Okay.
And then it was time to get rid of the toaster.
You could have just said we had a bad situation.
I said it was the whole thing. Yeah,
You
I know.
could've
I gotta
left
know
it
what
there.
this is.
But you didn't double down on it.
Well, now you had to hear about the bugs.
Hey, man.
No, I had to think about this. That's the second bad thing today.
I love toast,
It'd
man.
be like that sometimes.
I love
man.
toast.
I will say
I
I
do.
was eating a bagel the other morning, and I was like, you know what? I never toast these at home. Maybe I'll toast. And
Put
then
it in the oven, like Dan said.
It was 105 degrees.
So
I'm not
set-
opening the oven.
So set it outside.
No.
It got up to 134 heat index there in Lawrence. Okay.
Yeah. It's steaming.
God, 80s this weekend felt like I could put on a hoodie.
Yeah,
I thought the same thing. Like
at-
cold.
Hold on a second. At 6:15 Saturday morning, out in the front yard, I did.
Nice.
I did. Playing with chalk. 6:15 in the morning. If you guys want to know what that life is like, 6:15. Dad, come out and play. I got chalk.
Hey, chalk's fun.
I have gotten very good at block letters.
Nice.
I'm just gonna tell you all that. You know,
Next up, bubble letters.
I'm
That's the next phase.
pretty good. Okay. I did the whole the S back in the
I was
day.
going to say, have you shown your son
Yeah.
the S?
Oh yeah,
The
oh,
cool S.
Yeah. He knows it.
I think that's what it's called on the Wikipedia page about it, is
Yeah.
the cool S.
Yep.
If you know, you know.
Yes, indeed. If you don't,
Isn't it weird how certain things just like were a common trend in different parts of the country without any sort of connection between people in that part of the country? Everyone I knew drew the stupid S. I'm sorry, the cool S.
It's the cool
Man,
S.
I was gonna throw something at him right there, Dan. You didn't even
Yeah,
know.
Wikipedia. The cool S is a graffiti sign in popular culture,
Yeah.
typically doodled on children's notebooks or graffitied on walls.
So there was a school store at the elementary school I went to when I was like 3rd or 4th grade, and we named the store Stuff, so we could draw the cool S 3 times.
I see nothing wrong with that.
No.
That's
I
pretty
see
smart.
nothing wrong with that.
That's good planning.
I see nothing wrong with a few over-unders today. We will continue this the rest of this week. All righty. Chiefs over-unders. Sky Moore.
Sky with 2 Y's for double
Okay.
the fun.
Sky Moore. All right. There is no over-under officially for Sky Moore because he's like wide receiver 4. Sky Moore. Over-under. We're going to do 700 yards. So are you going with 700 or 701?
I think I'm going to go under here. And the only reason why, because you've heard me talk about how high I am on Sky Moore and what he can do. There are just so many mouths to feed.
Mm-hmm.
And only one of them is Travis Kelce in the, regarding the fact that there's only one truly elite, top end, best of the best guy. Like all these guys I think are good and they could all serve an important purpose, but there's only one guy who's going to get that many targets over the course of the year. So I think just the numbers game alone will probably keep him under. But if you gave me like,
Okay, let me ask you this.
45 for 500, that's a huge win, I would say.
Let me ask you this.
It's going to be double his production from last year.
Yeah.
Literally double.
Okay. Mahomes going to throw for how many yards?
5K.
Okay. Let's just say he throws for 5K. Travis Kelce, good for
1,300.
1,100 was his over-under. Okay.
All right, so there's 3,900 yards left.
Where are you getting it? That's 3,900 yards. You took the under on MVS for 760.
You've got 7 wide receivers that can all play.
But the problem is you can't play all 7 wide receivers.
What I think the Chiefs might end up doing, and I've been fascinated by the thought of this all preseason with their 7 wide receivers, is that you can go horses for courses with the 7 guys. If depending on how they're going to defend you, how other teams are going to play you. Like, okay, if the safeties are going to come up and they're going to dare us to beat them over the top, we're going to go with a little more MVS. If they're going to be really physical, we need to make some contested one-on-one catches. We need a little size. This is a Justin Ross game. If we're going to have a bunch of gaps
you're
underneath,
going with matchups.
yes,
Okay.
I think a lot of these snaps at wide receiver for the Chiefs may be dictated by matchups, may be dictated by hot hand, because you've got all these mouths to feed, but all of them, I think serve a purpose, and all of them can match up differently against different defenses.
So here's how the math roughly breaks down.
3,900 yards.
3,900 yards.
How many yards are coming from the running backs? 1,000?
Probably not any more than that.
Last year, it was back of the napkin math. It was about 800 yards.
Okay.
From the backs?
From the backs.
Yeah. Okay,
From
so
Pacheco, McKinnon, and Clyde.
My spoiler, not really a spoiler, my roster projections got 4 tight ends and 7 wide receivers that we'll get to next hour.
Okay.
That means outside of Travis Kelce and outside the running backs, you need 3,100 yards to go to 10 pass catchers. That's only 310 a person. So again, if Sky gets to 500, then to still be on pace, Justin Watson only needs 100 yards on the season. So I think between the running backs, with however many tight ends, and with all those receivers, when you can play the different matchups, someone will get hurt during the course of the year. They'll have to bring someone in, elevation from the practice squad or whatever. I have a hard time seeing most receivers going over their totals outside of Kelce. Unless you... Like, if you gave me more at 500, I would have a much harder time going under than over, because I think that's a good number for him. 700, I feel like, is a little too high, though.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm under 2. I think if he's around 600, that's a good season. That's a really good step forward in year 2 for him.
There's going to be one guy who catches the passes, catches the balls, whether that is MVS, whether that is
I think
Tony.
that's going to be Tony. I just don't think he's going to play all 17 games.
Okay.
Which also changes the calculus then, too, because if it's truly receiver by committee for 5 games, and then you bring in Tony and he's your number 1 guy, awesome, but then that's only 12 or 13 games where you're giving someone a number 1 target share.
Your top 2 wide receivers last year, receiving wise, Juju had 933 yards. MVS had 687. Back of the napkin, that's 1,600 yards, a little over 1,600 yards. I don't know that their leading wide receiver is going to have 933 yards again. Like, I don't think that the receiver with the most yards is going to have that many yards. And I think that the receiver with the second most yards could have around 680, 700, but I think that's as likely to be MVS as it's likely to be Sky Moore.
Over under 3.5 touchdowns for Sky Moore.
See, I will go over there because I think they figured out how to use him.
Little flip pass, that's
yes.
including the little flippers.
Like, I think he's going to be a guy that factors in the red zone a little bit more on stretch plays like that give him an opportunity to score more.
Yeah, that one's intriguing to me because in theory,
so
usually
he's going to score 40. He's going to throw 40 touchdowns. So who's getting the 40?
It is, the common thought about what a red zone target is a jump ball guy. You think of big bodies as red zone guys. I think Sky Moore, despite being small, is actually a prototypical red zone goal line kind of weapon because he can separate, because he is a good route runner. That's what he did so well at Western Michigan. So I actually think when you're inside the 10-yard line, you've got goal-to-go situations, he should be really effective down there. So I'm definitely intrigued by the over here. It's hard to predict touchdowns because, again, last year totally changed things because Jet McKinnon caught 9 or whatever it was. So that obviously can change things. But I do think Sky Moore is going to be very useful down in goal line situations. So I'll take the over there too.
So somebody's got to get, if Kelce catches 10, okay, that leaves you with 30 touchdowns. All right. McKinnon's not getting 9 again. All right. So the guy's got to accumulate touchdowns somehow. So I think Sky Moore is very well could do that.
After Kelce and McKinnon, who had the most touchdown catches for the Chiefs last year? Kelce had 12, Jet had 9. Who had the third most?
With Clyde?
It was not Clyde.
He had 3.
Clyde was tied for 4th.
It was McCole Hardman.
It was McCole Hardman with
Cole.
Do you know how many?
4.
Yeah, 4. I was the third most on the team, just 4.
2 rushing touchdowns too.
Yeah,
2 where he took handoffs.
So he had 6 total. Okay.
So that
I don't know that Sky Moore's going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Take a bunch of handoffs. What did he have? 3 rushing attempts last year. Well, McCole had 4, and 2 of them turned into touchdowns. So
weren't they the same game? Were they the 49ers?
One of them at least was against 49ers.
Yeah.
He might have had.
Alrighty. Justin Reed, safety Chiefs, who said in this prior to camp that, hey, I put some, no, not prior to camp, when his Madden rating came out.
Mm-hmm.
He said, put some respect on my name. Second half of the season, I was one of the best graded safeties in the NFL. He did play a lot better second half of the year. I will agree with that. Over under 1.5 interceptions. He had 0 last year.
So he has 7 in his career, which is now 5 years old. He had 5 in his first 2 years, 0 in 20, 2 in 21, 0 last year. So he's kind of all over the place.
Is he playing the Juan Thornhill role in this defense? Because Thornhill had 3 picks last year. That's where the interceptions came from in the Chiefs' secondary group. They didn't pick off a lot of passes last year. Only had 11 picks.
Yeah, that's an interesting point to bring up is who is, because with their base 2 safety, the Chiefs do kind of run the traditional 1 free, 1 strong safety kind of thing. So who's playing what role? Is Cook going to be more of your box guy, or is Cook going to be your deep safety and vice versa? Because I think if you're saying Reed is going to be more of your center fielder, I would think tipped balls, just being in the area of more deep throws, I think he's going to have more chances at them, which would make me think over.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning too.
Yeah, that would be how I would feel about it. I'll take the over there. Apparently, they come in bunches for it.
Yeah, no kidding. Then again, Edwards has kind of been that guy in his career, Mike Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of been his role. He's been the guy who the big plays, the interceptions find, and maybe they find him and not Justin Reed.
All right, over under 75 tackles.
Oh, that's an easy over.
He had 80 last year.
83.
So not a big over there.
He has gone over 75 all but 1 year in his career. And that 1 year is also the only, well, okay, he's missed time a couple of times. He missed 4 games in 21. He only had 66 tackles. Other than that, 88, 78, 83, 83. Again, I think it really comes down to roll. I'll go with the over because that's the trend. But I think it really does come down to roll. Because if he has to do things differently because he's going to be in a timeshare more often with Brian Cook over a Juan Thornhill, who was better as a coverage safety versus a box guy, which allowed Reed to play downhill a little bit more. Cook, to me, projects as a better downhill safety more than a true center field safety. So I would think Reed would have more of those opportunities, which would make me think maybe it goes under. But the fact that he's gone over that every year he's played a full season, I feel like the smart money would be on the over.
Yeah.
And lastly, what's his passer rating as a secondary individual?
So I came up with this one looking through his career numbers over at Pro Football Focus. They keep this. For his career, Justin Reed has allowed a passer rating of 100.5 when he's been targeted. His worst season was as a rookie, which was effectively tied with his last year in Houston. He was at 111 and change. He was 92 or lower in 19 and 20, last year at 103. So he was just about his career average last year.
I don't like this stat for safeties. I don't think this stat tells a story for safeties like it tells a story for cornerbacks. Because when you're talking about a safety being targeted, how often is the safety in the responsibility of the safety to cover someone one-on-one? Almost never.
Infrequently.
So what you're really talking about is, they were targeted, they were playing zone defense, and maybe somebody just sat down in front of the zone and made a catch. And to me, yeah, like it's better to have a low one. It's like an ERA for a relief pitcher. Like it tells a story, but it doesn't tell the same story that it tells, I think, for a cornerback.
And I think to statistically back up that argument, because I agree with you. I think it's not entirely fair. Last year, Reed's, and this is again from Pro Football Focus, his coverage grade was almost 71. That's good. That's not just okay. That's pretty darn good. And yet his passer rating allowed was over 100, which if you had a 103.1 passer rating for the season as a quarterback, you're in the top 3 in the NFL or top 5 in the NFL. So I don't think it's a perfect matchup statistically. I am going to go with the under here. I think it will be better than that mark because, again, I think his role is going to dictate he's going to have a lot of chances to break up deep passes and he should, to be the secondary defender.
And he should play with more comfort, with a greater comfort level year 2 in the defense. And when you're more comfortable with what your role is and more comfortable with the guys around you, you're more comfortable trying to go make a play. instead of, well, I don't want to be the one that makes the mistake. I got to keep everything in front of me. He might feel like this year he's got a little bit more freedom to go downhill on a ball and try and break it up, try and make a play, be more aggressive like that.
Coming up next, we'll go around the NFL. I have a big question for a individual who just signed a monster contract a year ago. Where's he going to play in 2024? We'll get to that next.
We don't know where Jake went.
No, 580 Sports Talk. There, for now, there are three of us here. Jake, with about 10 seconds left in the commercial break, walked out of the studio. I don't know where he went. All right. Well, Brendan and Dan here for the time being. Jake will show up again here in a moment.
We think.
Well, yeah, we assume. Let's go around the NFL real quick here before we talk to Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated. He'll join us here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline in just a moment. Anything from preseason week 3 really stand out to you on the news front?
Well, I think the big news was today that the Arizona Cardinals are going to cut Colt McCoy, and that Kyler Murray is going to start the season on the PUP list, and that it is very likely, more likely than not, that the Cardinals will be starting at quarterback a guy they just traded for last week when they play their first meaningful game. That's Josh Dobbs. It is an open tank happening in Arizona. They are gunning for the number 1 pick. They might end up with the number 1 pick and the number 2 pick because they got Houston's pick.
Yeah, that's true.
The Cardinals understand that they've got a chance to reshape their organization quite firmly with 2 top 5 picks at the very least. Now, we're thinking the Texans are going to stink again.
Yeah,
right?
they're going to be bad.
Yeah, they're going to be pretty bad. And certainly the Cardinals have no designs on being real good this year either. So it comes back to the question that I think Jake was going to ask us before he went out for cigarettes or milk. Let's say milk. He's not a smoker. We don't need it. We don't need to paint Jake in that light. That's not fair. He went out for milk. Who does Kyler Murray play for in 2024? Because if the Cardinals are successful in their tank, they're going to pick first overall, and that pick is going to be Caleb Williams. And it should be Caleb Williams because he's awesome.
He's a freak. Like, dudes are not supposed to move and throw like that, and he's unbelievable.
In case you missed it in their game against San Jose State, and goodness knows you probably did. You certainly didn't see it live because it was on the Pac-12 network, and you probably don't get Pac-12 network. But in case you missed it, there was a play in the USC game where the snap came in low and Caleb Williams had to trundle backwards to pick up the ball as it was bouncing. And with the rush in his face off his back foot, he threw like a 50-yard strike down the field to an open receiver for a touchdown. He is one of one, and he is going to be the number 1 pick, which the Cardinals are aiming for. So where does that leave Kyler Murray?
I gave 2 teams when Jake asked me this earlier today. By the way, welcome back.
Hi, Jake.
Yeah,
Sorry,
how's the grocery store? Just getting some milk?
No, I had a phone call. Something occurred with my son, but everything's okay.
He beat someone up? Give someone a German suplex on the playground?
No, absolutely not. That would be the opposite. My son is a rule follower. My daughter, maybe. Maybe.
But I told Jake earlier, I gave him 2 teams. One is the Bears because they have a buttload of cap space next year. They've built their offense around a quarterback who can run and throw, and I don't think their quarterback can throw. And it's not great going into week 1 for Justin Fields. So I think that is an opportunity there. And I think, and I gave you them as an option for Jonathan Taylor 2 weeks ago, I think Washington would be an interesting one to watch because if they're good, it probably means Sam Howell was pretty good, and then he's QB1 there. If they're bad, they're going to fire everybody, and they're going to get a new quarterback. They also have, I think, $60 million in open cap already for next year, which they could certainly fit Kyler Murray into.
Let me throw you a wild card answer for this. Miami. What if Tua cannot stay healthy? What if that is somebody you just can't hitch your wagon to because he's not going to be healthy enough?
That'd be fascinating with that Mike McDaniel spread, effectively the NFL version of a spread option. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause it feels like Murray would be a great fit in that Miami offense.
Those quick reads, all the speed that's on that roster. I think that makes sense.
It'd be like his high school offense all over again.
I hope Tua stays healthy, man.
Yeah. Like I'm not rooting for Tua to be made of glass, but I mean, if he suffers another concussion this year,
where do you think he's going?
Vegas.
Okay.
Interesting.
He never played for the Patriots though.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
He going somewhere.
Yeah.
He ain't staying. Now I don't know what you're gonna I know what you can get for it because his contract is so big and not many people can do it. I don't even know how much compensation you'd have to give him.
A first and change.
Gosh, I don't know. That contract's so big.
It is, but he's good. He's good.
He's good. He's not worth that contract.
I hope he stays in the NFC. I will say that right off rip. I hope he stays in the NFC because there is a bit of a talent drain occurring with regards to the quarterback position. All the good ones are in one conference. We have got to do something to get some good quarterbacks into the NFC.
Well, Caleb Williams.
Yeah, Caleb will be there soon.
Eventually. Coming up next, Matt Verderame will join us to talk all things NFL, cuts, Chris Jones, and more here on 580 Sports Talk. Talking all things NFL with our NFL insider, Matt Verderame. Follow him on Twitter at Matt Verderame. Covers the NFL for Sports Illustrated, SI.com. Matt, how are you doing approaching cut down day?
I'm good. I am waiting for all the cuts to be made, and then you kind of get all these final rosters and surprise cuts, and away you go.
Any surprise cuts for the Chiefs in your mind?
None that, to me anyway, would be shocking. I don't think you're going to have anybody who you go, wow, I can't believe it. I mean, you always look for that mild surprise, maybe a signing that didn't work out, like a veteran type guy. But I don't know this year that you're going to have a ton of that with the Chiefs. I feel like for the most part, you kind of know where they're at. Maybe there's 2 or 3 spots really up for grabs. For the most part, the Chiefs are pretty entrenched, as a lot of contenders are.
When it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs, I hate asking it because it's annoying, but he's the best defensive player maybe in the NFL outside of Aaron Donald. If you want to argue Bosa, I understand that. Myles Garrett, maybe. Chris Jones, is he going to report? Is he not? His agent apparently was at Joe's eating some barbecue this weekend. What's the latest on when you think he'll show, not show?
It's a weird thing because typically you expect guys not to want to get fined. That's just kind of the way the sports world works. And yet Jones is closing in pretty quickly here on $2 million this summer. And if you include OTAs, excuse me, not OTAs, you include workout bonus and minicamp, he's well over $2 million at this point. He is as entrenched as anybody I can remember outside of Le'Veon Bell. So, and Bell was on the tags. It's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody thought, hey, August 1st, he'll be there. Well, he wasn't. We're almost to September 1st. He's still not. Now, my colleague Albert Breer did a hell of a job reporting on the fact that, look, if he doesn't show up by tomorrow, the Chiefs can, by CBA rules, put him on the did not report list, and they can essentially not pay him for the first 2 games of the season, even if he shows up. If he shows up after tomorrow, the Chiefs can just say, you know what, you're not in good enough condition to play yet. You're not getting paid for weeks 1 and 2. Now, if they activate him, they pay. If they put him on the active roster, of course they have to pay. But if they don't, and they just leave him on the did not report list, even if Jones shows up Wednesday morning, the Chiefs have the ability to just say, we're not going to pay you. And that's going to hurt not only A, him getting paid, B, it's going to hurt next year if the Chiefs tag him. Guess what? Tag's a lot cheaper. So this is now getting to a point here where Jones, I think, is at a pivot point. He's got to be very careful. If he goes too far and the Chiefs get to the point where they just say, we don't care how he feels about this, this is what we're doing. He may sit out some games to prove a point, but the Chiefs are going to say that's fine because it's going to make it a lot easier to tag you on the back end of this thing. And so I don't know if you're the Chiefs that you're all that upset at this juncture. Now it's almost starting to turn into where the Chiefs have more leverage than Jones does.
Do you think, because I have seen that, the fewer games that he plays, his tag is, because let's say he plays all 17 games, the full deal, his tag is going to be like 30 some million bucks.
33 points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if he misses a bunch of games, it could drop all the way down to like 21 or 22. And now he could potentially have to deal with this all over again next year. Or the Chiefs could say, we are just done with you right now. And they tag him and trade him and move on.
Well, here's the other part of this that really gets interesting. So let's just say, and work off the assumption, he wants $30 million a year. Okay. Well, he's making 28 and change on the cap this year. So if you're Kansas City and he plays the full year, you're basically paying him $2.61 should you tag him and keep him throughout the entirety of next year on the tag. Now, I don't know if they do that. That would be a bold move because he is going to be furious at that point. But if they did that, it's essentially 2 years, 61 on the tag for the second year. If he sits out a bunch of games and it becomes 2.54, if you're the Chiefs, why would you give him $30 million a year? For what? I mean, at that point, you're paying him more than he's going to get on the first 2 years. Like, to give people insight on this, usually when long-term contracts are negotiated, now a lot of times it's off a rookie deal, the agents will look at it and go, okay, so what would my client make based off of 2 tags? Now, of course, Jones has already been tagged once, so it would just be this year and 1 tag. But the bottom line is the 2-year cash flow, as it stands, is 2 years and $61 million against the cap. If you're Kansas City, you might be willing to say, we'll give you a long-term deal right now at $28 million a year because the cap hits are going to be smaller early. It works for us. If Chris Jones just sits there and doesn't play, if I'm Brett Veach, I'm not all that broken up about it because now I'm sitting there saying, okay, great, we're going to tag you. Now it's more affordable. And oh, by the way, it's less than $30 million a year. Why in the world would we give you $30 million a year when we can just sit here and go year by year less? So I think Jones and his agents are running an increasingly risky game here day by day.
We're chatting with NFL writer Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated. He covers the National Football League for Sports Illustrated, SI.com as well. Go check out SI.com/NFL to find all of Matt's great work. You can also find him on Twitter at Matt Verderame, and he joins us here on 580 Sports Talk on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Elsewhere around the league, Matt, the biggest news that was kind of a shock, but also to a degree not a huge shock last week, was the Trey Lance trade. Trey Lance is now a member of the Dallas Cowboys. How did this all unfold where he fell out of favor so quickly with the 49ers to the point where he fell behind noted bust Sam Darnold on their depth chart?
It's not great. It's not great. Look, I think what happened is a confluence of a few things. So essentially, Lance never really got a chance in San Francisco, and that sounds like I'm knocking the Niners. I'm not. But what happened was he got hurt last year, as we all know. He got hurt in week 2, broke his ankle, was out for the year. So he, in his entire NFL career, has started 4 games, which is the same number of games Paxton Lynch started. Okay, like he has had no opportunity. Now, let's also be real. Part of that's because they've watched him in practice every day of his career, and they have no belief that he's ever going to become a great quarterback. If they did, they would have played him. You don't give up 3 first-round picks and then just essentially punt on the guy because you have Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold. If you don't think he just flat can't play. Now, the more intriguing thing to me, because the Niners, this has been writing on the wall last year. This was going to happen. It's more intriguing to me, and I wrote about this over at SI the day it happened, who he went to, which is Dallas. So Dallas has, of course, Dak. They also have Cooper Rush, who came in last year, went 4-1 and 5 starts. Dak was hurt. Cooper Rush statistically was not good, even though he went 4-1. And there was a real legitimate murmur like, hey, should they play Cooper Rush? Well, guess what? Now you bring in Trey Lance. And Trey Lance may or may not be able to play at all. Cowboys fans aren't going to care about that. If you look at Dak's first 6 games upcoming, they have some brutal defenses to deal with. They have the Giants with Wink Martindale. They've got Bill Belichick and the Pats. They've got the Chargers. I believe the Eagles are in there, or the Niners. It's the Niners that are in there. They have some really tough defenses. The Jets, week 2. Like, the only game in the first 6 weeks of the year that you look at and go, okay, yeah, they're going to light them up is the Cardinals. Other than that, it's very difficult. So, like, what happens if Dak starts off slow? You're going to have a whole bunch of pressure to, hey, Trey Lance, you traded a 4th-round pick. That's a real draft pick. Like, what about him? And Jerry Jones is not the kind of owner who's just going to tamp that down. Like, he's Jerry. He's going to play into that. So I find that fascinating. Like, if I'm Dak, I feel a lot of pressure to get off to a good start because I know otherwise there's going to be a lot of calls. Maybe they're not even heated, but there's just going to be a lot of pressure on him that maybe wasn't there a week ago.
Matt, I wanted to follow up with a question about the 49ers. Going back to 2017 in the NFL draft, they took Solomon Thomas 3rd overall in the Mahomes draft. They took Mike McGlinchey 9th overall. Obviously hit it out of the park with Bosa, number 2 overall in 2019. Brandon Ayuk's been a fine player as a 1st-round pick in 2020. They also took Javon Kinlaw, who's played 10 games the last 2 years. Trey Lance was their number 1 pick in 2021. They gave up 3 first-rounders to get him. At what point does this failure in the draft and this wasting of draft resources come back to haunt the 49ers?
I think it has in some ways. I mean, to your point, I understand the point of the question, but really when you look at it, like, they should have won a Super Bowl at this point. With all this talent, I mean, you could really make an argument that if you take the quarterback out of it, they're by a mile the best roster in football. I mean, maybe it's Philly, but their quarterback situation has just been underwhelming. I won't say it's a mess, but it's been underwhelming. It just has not been, other rooms around the league of most contenders. You look around the NFL, who are the biggest contenders? Well, whoever they are, they all star quarterbacks, except for the 49ers. And I think it's going to bite them again this year. I'm not going to pick them in the playoffs to beat Philly. If they get to the Super Bowl, if they somehow avoid Philadelphia, I'm not picking them to beat Kansas City. I'm not picking them to beat Buffalo or Cincinnati. They're the quarterback. And more to your point, I think when you look at their roster, they have a ton of stars, and some of which have been drafted, guys like Afunga, guys like Warner, guys like Deebo Samuel, but a lot of them have been scraped and bringing in guys at the cost of a ton of picks. Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams was acquired from the outside. They've done that. Emmanuel Sanders way back when they traded for him. They a pick. They've done a good job. In fact, they've done a tremendous job drafting in the mid rounds. They've done a really spotty job drafting early, and in some cases a disastrous job, like with this last trade. I think at some juncture where it's really going to hurt them is all these other pieces, the Kittles, the Trent Williamses of the world, the Warners. They're going to get old, and they're going to be done. And then it's like, what are you left with? You're left with Brock Purdy and what? And that's where you start wondering, okay, well, then what? And I don't know then what with the Niners. That's the problem. I don't know that they're going to be able to figure it out when some of these acquired pieces start to get older.
Matt, talk to me about Matt LaFleur. Your conversation with him up in Green Bay recently. I've been waiting for this piece to come out. It was published on Friday, chatting with Matt LaFleur about the identity of this Packers team going forward. Year one with Jordan Love as the nailed-on starter. What was it like talking to Matt LaFleur this year? And what is, through this preseason, what kind of is the feeling about the confidence level and where this team thinks it's going?
Matt was excellent. He was also super gracious because he sat there with lunch in front of him for 25 minutes and didn't touch it while we were in the middle of the conversation. He's a better man than I am. I would have plowed through that thing if I was in his shoes. But he has confidence. I mean, look, every coach has confidence in the team. Every coach believes in the most positive outcome, and that's fine. But talking to him, there is a genuine belief of, look, this team underachieved last year. I asked him why. I said, it's tough to put your finger on why we couldn't get the momentum back. But, started out 3-1, things went sideways in London against the Giants, and it just kind of went from there. But, he believes with Jordan Love that it's going to be a bit of a process this year. He talked about going and looking at Niners film, looking at Rams film, looking at Dolphins film, seeing what Mike McDaniel did with Tua, seeing what Brock Purdy was able to succeed with in Kyle Shanahan's offense. And, of course, LaFleur worked with Shanahan, he worked with McDaniel, worked with McVay. So he's trying to get an idea based on what some of his contemporaries and some of his friends in the league did on how he can go about getting Jordan Love to play at his best. I also spoke with him about it's a lot of young guys on the outside. Like, how big of a challenge was this offseason? He actually brought up a really good point. He said, truthfully, the hardest part of the offseason was just not knowing who was going to catch the ball. I mean, they went into the draft needing a ton of guys just to fill the depth chart out. And, they ended up with a couple of tight ends in Musgrave and Kraft. They ended up with Jaden Reed in the second round, Dontavian Wicks later on. They love Malik Heath, who's an undrafted free agent at Ole Miss, who they are extremely high on. So I think you're going to see early some ups and downs where they'll have a big game and maybe the next week it's a little bit different. But there's a genuine belief with them that they're undervalued. And frankly, I would agree with them. I think if anybody's going to beat out Detroit in that division, I saw all four of those teams. I think it's the Packers. The Packers, to me, have the highest upside of any of those three teams trying to challenge Detroit. And Detroit's got a lot to prove. So it's going to be an interesting division.
Couple more questions from Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated. Check out his work on the website, si.com/NFL, the work of him and his great colleagues at Sports Illustrated. Also check out the magazine as well, as he joined us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for a Monday conversation about the NFL. Matt, on a scale of 1 to the 2008 Detroit Lions, how bad are the Arizona Cardinals going to be in 2023?
That's a big scale. That's a really big scale. Closer to the 2008 Lions and 2019 Chiefs. I think that's a fair assessment. They're going to be atrocious. It's almost embarrassing how they're not even trying to hide how much the clown show this is going to be. I mean, I don't want to there's a part of me that says, look, you don't want to bag on the guys that are. Clayton Tune's going to go out there and he's going to play his best. I know they're not going to announce the starter. Let me be the first one to break the news, guys. They're going to start Clayton Tune. He's been there the whole offseason. And Josh Dobbs has been a good backup. That's fine. And you're not bringing in Josh Dobbs a week before the season starts and handing the keys over to him. That's not going to happen. So Clayton Tune's going to play. Frankly, I didn't love the Gannon hire. I thought that was the wrong hire to begin with. If you look at Jonathan Gannon's career as a D coordinator against anybody who can play football at quarterback, he gets torched almost every time. Every time he's played against a good quarterback, they've gotten smoked. That's with elite talent. Now you're going to a Cardinals team that, other than Budda Baker, I mean, it's just guys everywhere on that defense. Offensively, you're not going to move the ball. That offense is rancid. Their number right now, they're over-under total in some books 3.5 in a 17-game season. And as ridiculous as that is, I'd hit the under. Who are they beating? I almost feel like they're just basically saying, we're going to win a game this year. We're going to draft Caleb Williams, trade Kyler Murray, eat a ton of dead money. Basically do what the Eagles did years ago when they traded Wentz, I think like $34 million. They're not going to care. They're just going to trade him. Some team will take him. They'll eat the money. And they'll have Caleb Williams, and they have Houston's first pick. I mean, they could walk out of this with Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. But this year is going to be they should just take a big Sherman tank and just slap it on the side of the helmet. I mean, it's going to be a long year.
That's one of the greatest images I've ever seen is this Sherman tank on their helmet. Matt, we appreciate the time. Great insight. We appreciate it as always. Enjoy the penultimate week before we start the actual game week next week when the Chiefs take on the Lions. Matt, we appreciate it.
Hey, you got it anytime.
Matt Verderame.
Jonathan Gannon, tank commander.
He brings up a great point. Like, who are they going to beat? They ain't beating the 49ers or the Seahawks anytime. They ain't happening there.
The Rams are going to be food, too. I think the Rams are going to stink, but I don't know if they're going to be as bad as Cardinals.
Well, if their O-line is okay, Stafford can still, if he can throw it, then I think the Rams could be okay. All theirs just depends on Stafford and Kupp. If Stafford and Kupp are healthy, then they'll be all right.
They got 36 rookies in their camp.
Dan is the starting center for the Rams this year.
That's a problem.
So, yeah.
That's a problem. That is.
Did you see what the Broncos did to them in the preseason finale?
Was it 41-0?
41 zip. It's gonna be bad.
Man, the NFC. Gosh, what I wish to be an NFC team. Coming up, we'll take a look at
the Chiefs won the Super Bowl anyway.
Exactly. How much of a cakewalk that'd be? We will get to our Chiefs roster coming up next.
Hey now, 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk getting underway. I'm Brendan Dorzinski. That is Dan Lucero. Just the two of us taking you home on this Monday afternoon. Jake tending to some things outside the building, so we will see Jake coming up tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Just the two of us. The rest of the way, though, we're still taking your texts. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. And, of course, you can hit us up in the YouTube comment section as well. You know the name of our YouTube channel. It's just 580 Sports Talk. Head to YouTube. Search 580 Sports Talk. Make sure you're logged in so you can subscribe to all of our video content. And then you can check out today's live stream, all our old videos, the comment section today, all that on our YouTube, 580 Sports Talk. Here in this 4 o'clock hour of the show, we've got our roster projections, our 53-man roster projections, or at least the headlines of our roster projections. The camp battles, who's going to make certain spots, how many of each spot are going to be kept. We will get to all that here in just a matter of moments. Today's What Is Wrong With You, sponsored by Top City Metal Supply, also coming up. And we will begin our week-long Big 12 season preview. The 4 newcomers to the league this year. What are we expecting to see from BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, UCF? Who is going to shine for these teams? Who can you expect to be a household name in the league? How good are they actually going to be in their first year in the Big 12? All that is coming up this hour, plus your texts and your comments on the YouTube feed. And we should note that football begins right here on the Sports Voice of Kansas this week as well. Over on our sister station, Country 106.9, coming up on Thursday, we've got Washburn football. The Ichabod starting off their season, 7 o'clock from Carney Smith Stadium in Pittsburgh as the Ichabods take on the Pitt State Gorillas in their season opener. That's Thursday night at 7 over on Country 106.9. Right back there on Country 106.9. In fact, coming up on Friday night, we will have our first high school football game of the season. 580 Preps football coverage will take us to Seaman Stadium and the Seaman Vikings taking on the Topeka West Chargers in a United Kansas Conference matchup. That's coming up Friday night, 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock kick. Myself, Dan, Greg Akagi will be on the call of that one. And then K-State football coming up early Saturday evening, right? 6 o'clock kickoff for that game? Am I correct about that?
K-State?
Yeah.
Yeah, 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock kickoff, 4 o'clock pregame on the Kansas State Sports Radio Network, which is also right here on 580 WIBW.
By the way, Big 12 now for that game. So if you have unsubscribed to ESPN Plus, as is your prerogative, if you do that at the end of the Big 12 athletic season, make sure you are resubscribed to ESPN Plus if you want to watch the Cats on your favorite device.
Same goes for you KU fans out there as well. Both KU and K-State on the plus.
KU's on the plus.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. You know, you move it to Friday. Sometimes that gets you on a terrestrial network.
Well, that was the gist behind moving the Illinois game to Friday. Okay, whatever. Come on, you're on the plus. You can be on whatever time you want. Figure it out. KU's got a great media program. J-school kids can figure out how to produce a game on a Saturday afternoon. I'm certain of it. Come on. Keep the games on Saturday. Anyway, that's beside the point. Let's get to the NFL. Let's get to the Kansas City Chiefs. 53-man roster needs to be set tomorrow, mid-afternoon. Of course, there will be some guys who are put on IR after they make the 53. That will open up a spot. That's so that they can be eligible to return later this year. Whereas if you're put on IR during camp before you get to the 53 cut down, you are out for the season. That's what the Chiefs, we expect, to do with Nick Jones, among others. So there are a couple of different ways you can put this roster together. But let's start with a couple of the obvious things here, right? They're keeping 3 quarterbacks. We're in lockstep on that one. Mahomes, Bouchel, Gabbert, they're all sticking around.
Yeah, probably. I think they like Bouchel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they see some potential with him. It is interesting, though, because I think the Chiefs are maybe trying to have it both ways, because I think that they, of all teams, and we've had this discussion before, they understand the value of having a veteran quarterback who can step into a must-win situation and steer the ship and make some plays and produce some points. Because if they did not have that player, they don't beat Cleveland in the 2020 playoffs, and they don't beat Jacksonville last year.
Yep.
So they see that value, and that's why there's value to them in a player having a guy like Blaine Gabbert around. But it's hard to also then develop a quarterback too, because in a perfect world, Shane Buechele doesn't play any snaps for the Chiefs.
Right.
And it might be one of those situations when we talked to Tim Fitzgerald to GoPowerCat.com, we're talking about K-State. And K-State last year had a situation where they went into last season where Adrian Martinez was their starting quarterback. And if he went out in a game, they would turn to Jake Rubley to be the in-game backup.
Mm-hmm.
But if he was going to miss time, like not just a series or he get knocked up, he get knocked around, dinged up. Whoops. Store that one on the files, the blooper reel. If he got dinged up in a game, Jake Rubley was the guy, but the long-term starter, if they needed one, was Will Howard. I wonder if the Chiefs view the backup situation the same way, where in game, if Patrick Mahomes is hurt, Blaine Gabbert is who you turn to. If Patrick Mahomes has to miss some weeks, maybe Shane Buechele starts. Maybe that's how they view his development.
I also think it's possible he's the new Gary Dieter.
And just around because he and Mahomes are buds?
They're buds. Their wives are like best friends. Their kids play together. He might just be the new Gary Dieter.
No, that's real. That could be very possible as well.
All right, so it looks like there will be 3 there. The real intrigue comes down to offensive line, probably keeping 9, I would think. The 9 I've got for the line, again, I think this is the easier part of the offense. You're starting 5, Smith, Tooney, Humphrey, the other Smith, and Taylor across from left tackle to right tackle. I think it'll be Allegretti, Kennard, Morris, and Niang as your backup group. Morris is obviously staying. I think Allegretti, the fact that he can play center is important. Kennard, you can play guard or tackle.
Yeah, versatility is important.
And I do think they're going to end up keeping Niang. Our guy, Matt Derrick, on his final rosterology of the year, which you can go find at ChiefsDigest.com, he's got Niang as a practice squad guy, and he's got the Chiefs keeping Prince Tega Wanogo instead. I think the tie goes to the draft pick here. I think Niang would stay around instead.
Yeah, I know that Wanogo's got some more experience playing left tackle than Niang does, but I also think that your backup left tackle is Joe Tooney.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it's as important, that distinction between one guy can play left tackle and one guy hasn't played as much left tackle. I don't think that's going to be a position that you're desperate for need in. I think Tooney slides to left tackle, or maybe Juwan Taylor goes across the line to left tackle.
That's true too.
And you play Wanya Morris or Lucas Niang at that right tackle spot. So I think they're covered at left tackle. I don't think that's an advantage for Wanogo. And I'm kind of with you. I lean towards the draft pick getting the nod. Another thing to watch is Nick Allegretti. Okay, he did not play on Saturday. If he's going to be dinged, do the Chiefs open the season maybe putting him on 6-week IR, and Austin Ryder or Mike Caliendo get a roster spot?
That's certainly possible as well.
Because you don't, like, if Allegretti couldn't go for week 1, then I don't know what they would do on the interior in case of an injury. Like, they'd have to have somebody else on the roster. Maybe that's Ryder. Maybe Caliendo's a little bit more versatile. Maybe he makes the team over Kennard to have a backup guard option and a center option. But I know they liked Kennard and they kept him around last year. I think they might try and keep him around again.
I would think so.
Yeah, Caliendo's a bit more of a veteran. Last year felt like a redshirt year for Kennard. Could they get away with getting him to the practice squad again?
That's certainly possible to try to keep him as sort of the forgotten man. Yeah, I think there's a decent chance that you've got the flexibility there, but I think 7 or 8 of those 9 are pretty much locked on at this point. So you get to the real intrigue then, and I believe that is with the skill position players. You've got some combination. I think it'll be 14 players between your running backs, your wide receivers, and your tight ends. With 1 day to go, how many tight ends, how many running backs? Because I'm assuming 7 receivers.
Yeah, I think 7 is what we've kind of settled on since week 1 of training camp, and no reason to believe that they won't keep the 7 that we all kind of think they're going to keep. MVS, Tony, Moore, Watson, Rice, James, and Ross.
Which means Amir Smith-Marset probably ends up somewhere else.
Unless Tony gets IR'd, but that doesn't sound like that's going to be necessary.
Yeah, which would be very beneficial. You get 7 then between your running backs and your tight ends. Which is 3, which is 4?
I think running back is 3.
I'm with you.
I think running back is 3 because I think you're going to get Deneric Prince to the practice squad and he's your RB4.
Yeah.
So I think it's 3 running backs. I think it's 4 tight ends. We've talked about the flexibility that 4 tight ends gives the Chiefs offense. We've talked about how Matt Bushman has some ability as a pass catcher from that spot that differentiates him a little bit from Blake Bell, from what Noah Gray can offer. And I think that is the position it makes the most sense to go with 4.
I think running back you can get by with 3 because, Clyde is going to be used sparingly since he's going to be RB3. You're not going to see a ton from McKinnon. Hope, knock on wood, he has been pretty healthy the last couple of years, save for some nicks and bruises. So hopefully he's good to go. I'm not really all that worried about Pacheco's health. I know he had the non-contact jersey on for a lot of camp. I'm really not worried about it. I think you're set there. And again, because you get the practice squad promotions now and can add guys to the roster on game week, I think you're going to be covered at running back if you just keep 3 on the roster. Tight end, I think there's a lot of additional value in having a 4th there. I heard a stat. This is from the Athletics Football Show podcast with Robert Mays and Nate Tice. I was just listening this morning to their AFC West preview. It came out a couple of days ago. But I thought, I want to see what they have to say about the Chiefs and the division. So the Chiefs last year, when they ran 13 personnel, which is 1 running back, 3 tight ends, 1 wide receiver. If you ever hear that, by the way, if you hear 11 personnel or 12 personnel, you might say, how do you have 12 people on the field? That's the number of running backs and tight ends at any given time. So 12 is 1 running back, 2 tight ends. 21 would be 2 running backs, 1 tight end, etc. So 13 personnel, if you have not heard this before, would be one running back, and 3 tight ends. And when the Chiefs have had Kelsey and Bell and Gray and Fortson, when those guys have all been healthy, they did like to run out of 13 personnel a decent amount, especially in short yardage situations. Against 13 personnel last year, the Chiefs faced an 8-man box 34% of the time. And if that sounds low, like, damn, they're only loading the box that often against that many big dudes, it is low because the league average, the other 31 teams in the league facing, or when they ran 3 tight ends in a formation, faced an 8-man box 86% of the time. More than 8 of every 10 snaps around the NFL last year, teams just stuffed the box. The Chiefs, though, have broken the game so much that when they put more tight ends out there, teams are still leaving space on the field. They're leaving space in the middle. So to me, having more packages and more combinations you can run with more tight ends is more beneficial to this Chiefs team because you can run Isaiah Pacheco into that light box and have it work out. Or you can have, Kelsey on one end, Bushman and Bell on the other, running all sorts of different combinations of routes and different concepts and whatnot. You can bring Pacheco or McKinnon out of the backfield. There's endless possibilities of what you can do from that group, especially if teams aren't loading up on the line of scrimmage against you. So hearing that this morning, I thought, okay, the Chiefs absolutely should keep extra tight ends so you can make even more hay out of those favorable situations. Literally no other team in the league can do that based on that number.
That is wild. And yet they're still, you still don't feel confident in the Chiefs running in short yardage,
which is bizarre.
The amazing thing.
It really,
they should be automatic if they're facing light boxes that much. Yeah, you should go with a beef package, get Noah Gray and Blake Bell out there, and just essentially run behind 7 offensive linemen.
Yeah. Defensive side of the ball, the defensive line. This is an intriguing spot. Because what do you do with Chris Jones? Do you put him on the did not report list? Do you keep him on the active roster? I think there is a balance you have to strike here. Put him on the do not report list, as we heard from Matt Verderame. If they put him on that list, even if he shows up in the first 2 weeks, he is not going to get paid for those weeks, or they do not have to pay him, which it's like when you sign up for a new service or download an app or software, and it says, we may use your information to talk to our advertisers about whatever. When they say we may, it means we will. It means they are going to take every piece of data you give them and they're going to sell it to somebody and they're going to send you a bunch of advertisements. If the Chiefs say we might not pay you if you're on this list, they are not going to pay him if he's on that list. Okay, that's how it would appear to me. that would also, to me, make me feel like that relationship is probably done after this year for good. Like, that's not paying me would make me feel like this is not a relationship I want to continue.
Yeah, that would be a big fissure that I'm not sure could be patched over.
So there's a couple different, but also by the same token, hey, we need to have 53 guys on the roster who are playing. We need to have a full accompaniment of players who are ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you have to put them on there and you say, whatever, we're moving on. There's a lot of different ways you can address this. How would you handle it if you were putting together this defensive line group? How many are you keeping, and what are you doing with Chris Jones?
I think probably keep. I first of all, I would have Chris Jones on the 53-man roster.
Okay,
because fine, he's inactive. He's inactive for week 1,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. It's a good faith gesture, if nothing else, to say, look,
Sure.
it's a negotiating ploy. And if I'm in charge, if I'm Dan Veach over here, I got my GM hat on, I want to keep those lines of communications open, and I want to signal to Chris Jones that we're not just tabling this for later. Like, we want you to be on the roster. We want you to play as much as you can week 1, because we're a better team with you than we are without you. And we're a lot closer to winning a Super Bowl with you than we are without you. And I think that needs to be the consistent message from the Chiefs. Not this take it or leave it attitude. It has to be, we want you to be here. Let's make this work. Let's do everything we can to make sure the lines of communication stay open and that there's as much goodwill as possible from our side to the Chris Jones side. So I keep him on the 53-man roster. And then probably keep 10 linemen total, 5 DTs, 5 DNs, maybe 6 DT. I don't know. Like, Danny Shelton belongs on the team. But then what do you do with Keandre Coburn? Because I think he belongs on the team too. And Turk Wharton belongs on the team, and Derek Nottie belongs on the team.
Mm-hmm.
So then you've got 6 defensive tackles and only 4 DNs. I mean, you kick Jones out a lot on
Mm-hmm.
certain plays, and Shelton's kind of rotational. But if you have 5 DNs, those guys can maybe help you more on special teams than the DTs can. So it's tough. I think that last roster spot comes down to the rookies, Coburn and BJ Thompson, and it might be that Thompson gives you more flexibility with that spot than Coburn does.
I've got 9 on the line, 4 ends, 5 interior players. Your ends are Karlaftis, Dana, Ndudike Uzama, and I think BJ Thompson. He's draft pick. You drafted him for a reason. You moved up to get him for a reason.
Yeah.
You keep him around. So I think those are your only 4 you're starting the year with, and I've got 5 guys on the interior, including Chris Jones. Derek Nottie, I've got Danny Shelton in there too. Coburn had one of the best camps of anyone this year, and I do think Turk Wharton makes it. That would be a surprise cut to me if Wharton was not around.
Yeah.
So I do think he's going to make it.
Yeah, and I don't think he'll be IR'd either.
No.
I think they're gonna.
He'll be ready to roll.
Yeah.
So that's the group I would keep, and I think when you get to week 7, Monday of week 7, when the suspension ends for Charles Omenihu, you essentially have to just adapt. It doesn't necessarily have to be a lineman who gets cut to make room for him, or maybe someone gets put on IR and that makes it even easier. But you could theoretically say linebacker. We'll transition to that next. I have 5. I think it's going to be your obvious 4, and I think Jack Cochran probably makes it as well.
Yeah, special teams guy. He's had a really good camp.
Yeah.
Mitch Holtis has talked him up a lot, and that's not an accident, I don't think.
And I don't mean to pick on him, and I'm not saying he's going to stink or I think he'll stink, but let's just say it doesn't click for him in the regular season like it did in the he's the NFL quad A player. Great preseason player, not good against one.
Who is the guy that got recalled from the practice squad as a linebacker and then made 2 back-breaking mistakes, big penalties against Cincinnati 2 years ago? Zane Anderson?
Zane Anderson.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the player.
Maybe
Zane Anderson was huge in training camp a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And then it was bad when they needed to call on him in a big moment. So maybe there's a player like that. Maybe it's one of the defensive backs. Maybe it's one of the linebackers. Hard to say. That's when you bring Omenihu in. I think the other thing you can do with that pass rush, if you're only keeping 4 defensive ends, like in this scenario here, I am still in favor of using Chanel as an edge rusher. I think you can use, as a part-time edge rusher, 2-point stance, bring him wide 9. You can do a lot of things with that downhill speed. So I think you can do enough to make up for having a thinner rotation at end. Killed me to not keep Malik Herring on this roster. I really wanted it to work with Malik Herring.
Daniel Wise too. We got a Daniel Wise fan on the text line from the 785. And he's had a good preseason, and I hope they can keep him on the practice squad.
I think he will. I think he is your first practice squad guy up if the Chiefs need another lineman, because it has been a really good camp. And I want nothing but the best for Daniel Wise, because he gave a few really good years at KU when no one else was. So I have nothing but love for Daniel Wise. So I hope he makes it, but it's a numbers game sometimes, and that can be tough. Are you same with the 5 linebackers?
Yeah, I'm settled on that. So what it really comes down to, because the specialists are the specialists, there's 3 of those. So is it 5 safeties and 5 corners, or is it 6 corners and 4 safeties?
I went 5 and 5 here. So the safeties, Reed, Cook, your 2 starters, Shamari Connor and Mike Edwards are both effectively they're going to play a ton of snaps. So they might not be quote unquote starters, but they're going to play starter kinds of snaps. And I think Deion Bush does end up making it. Another core special teamer. He's been around the block. He's been with the team already for a year. That seems, I think, like a fairly safe bet to make the safety group. Snead and McDuffie plus Williams and Watson that's your main rotation of your corners. And I do think it's going to be Boydo who makes the roster. Now, they're going
to IR Nick Jones.
Yeah. So
Nick Jones would be the guy because he was a draft pick.
Right.
I think that would give him the nod in general circumstances, but he got the broken fingers. So I think he goes to IR, and I do think Boydo makes the team.
Get signed in his place.
So the question then, for me, it comes down to Khalif Halassi, who's had a really nice preseason, or Deion Bush. And I think the reason I nod toward Bush is his special teams ability, I think, is a little more trustworthy as a veteran guy. And they don't have that wide receiver who's a Dave Tobe favorite, but Deion Bush is kind of that in the safety group. So I think that's why he makes the team. That's why they go 5 and 5, I think.
Yeah, and right or wrong, I sort of feel like we haven't seen many Dave Tobe guys this year. And because of that, it feels like one of them is certainly coming. By the way, if Deion Bush does indeed make this roster, he's going to be one of the oldest players on the team at 30 years old. It's stunning how young this team still is. All the success, so much of the core is still together. Mahomes and Kelsey and this offensive line, which has been together for a few years, and Tooney was a free agent acquisition, and Chris Jones on the defensive side of the ball. Snead has been around for several years now. They're still one of the youngest teams in the NFL, which is absolutely incredible. I was very proud of myself. I went through my roster breakdown, and I came out to exactly 53 players on the first try. I was very proud of that.
That's
Usually
impressive.
I miss by a player or two. Let us know any surprise cuts or surprise keeps maybe that you are hoping to see or expecting to see for this Chiefs team. Hit us up on the text line, 785-272-9429, or in the YouTube comment section. You know the name of the channel. It's just 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. We've got to get to a break, but we've got today's What Is Wrong With You coming up next, followed by some college football previews from around the Big 12, all coming up this hour on 580 Sports Talk. It's time for What Is Wrong With You, our favorite time of the day here on 580 Sports Talk, especially now that we don't get to talk to Mitch every day. What is wrong with you? You're back to being on top. It is What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply here on 580 Sports Talk. Top City Metal Supply cuts the metal you need to your specifications. You know what that means. It saves your time, your money, and your material. So never settle when it comes to your metal at Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. 2 news stories to lead off the week. And I will go first today, Dan. I'm going to take you to Trumbull, Connecticut, where a local man is accused of stealing thousands of dollars of the town's tax money, but thankfully he has been arrested. Police charged 56-year-old Robert Withington of Trumbull with larceny on Friday, following a lengthy investigation, which focused on the theft of several thousands of dollars in town tax receipt funds. Detectives initiated the investigation when they were notified that an employee of the town's tax collector office wasn't able to find the bank deposit bag when they were supposed to stop by all the way back on May 30th. Kind of important when you need to take the money to the bank and the money's not there.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Investigators said
item 1 on the checklist.
Yeah,
the money. Yep, can't find it. That's an issue.
Investigators said the employee reported they had discovered the bag was missing when they arrived at the bank branch on Quality Street that day. That's an unfortunate name for this story. The deposit bag was marked with the bank's insignia and contained documents that identified the town as the owner. Detectives conducted numerous interviews, obtained several search warrants, and reviewed multiple surveillance videos from local businesses and determined the bank deposit bag had been inadvertently dropped on the ground outside the bank, which is where Withington then picked it up. When Withington was interviewed, police said he admitted to being at the bank on May 30th and that he took the bag containing nearly $5,000 in cash. Authorities said Withington kept the bag, though, believing he had no obligation to return the bag to its owner.
Gentlemen, I'd like to refer you to the case of finders versus keepers.
He did eventually turn himself in at police HQ on Friday, where he was charged with larceny and was released on a promise to appear. Is that a thing?
I guess.
Do you promise? See you in court on September 5th?
It's New England, man. They got some funny rules.
Yeah, apparently so. Yeah, that really is like old English. Like,
he really did hit him with the Lionel Hutz defense.
Yeah.
Finders versus keepers.
Why should I have to give this back? You left it.
Yeah, seriously. I'm the lucky one. I hit a lick. I found a bag with $5,000 in it on the ground. What am I supposed to do?
This is like a Monopoly chance card.
Yes.
Go to the bank. Find $5,000 on the ground.
Bank error in your favor. Collect $5,000.
I'm sure it's fine.
No, man, free him. Free Robert. Tell us spelled backwards.
Yeah.
He did nothing wrong.
Can we please point out that someone dropped a bag with $5,000 in cash in it and apparently didn't notice? It seems important. Seems like a real what is wrong with you?
Yeah, when they got back to the office, nobody asked him, hey, man, about that bag of money we sent you to pick up. Can we have it?
Yeah, you can't be that, guys. $5,000.
Nah, man, he did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Whom among us finding $5,000 on the ground outside the bank? Nah, man, take that home.
Yeah.
It's your lucky day.
Mark is right in the YouTube comments. Finders, keepers, losers, weepers. Sorry, nerds. Lost your money. It's mine now.
Wild.
Possession is 9/10 of the law.
Yes. I guess the other 1/10 means he's got to go to court.
Apparently so.
All right. For my story today, we go to Altoona, Pennsylvania, where police...
Football hotbed.
Yes.
Altoona, Pennsylvania.
Lots of towns in Pennsylvania, big football towns. Police were called for a residential burglary in Altoona. I don't know if it's a burglary hotbed, but for the purposes of our story, we'll pretend that it is. Instead of finding a break-in, though, they found $25,000 worth of fentanyl and other drugs. 46-year-old Alan Phelan Jr. is facing a slew of possession with intent to deliver charges. That's not a good thing to have a slew of.
No.
After calling police to his apartment on 15th Avenue in the area of the Altoona Cathedral around 1 a.m. Friday. According to the criminal complaint, Phelan claimed that someone broke into his apartment by breaking his window. However, police said there were no signs that anyone got into his apartment. When asked if he knew anything was missing, he took police inside. Police were shown various parts of Phelan's apartment when they saw what looked like clonazepam pills sitting in an open safe. Phelan allegedly told them he keeps them in various places in case he has a panic attack. Police noted he was unable to show them a prescription.
Not great.
While in the apartment, police alleged a pill bottle with white powder was out in clear view, along with a small measuring spoon with white residue. Police took Phelan into custody while getting a search warrant. According to the complaint, while executing the warrant, the police found the following: 47 grams of fentanyl and 71 packages of it valued at $25,000. 13 grams of meth valued at $1,300. 20 grams of marijuana valued at $600, 9 Suboxone strips valued at $400, 12 clonazepam valued at $150. Police also noted they found an electronic scale, various sized baggies, multiple smoking devices, and small glass vials with twist tops. It was also noted that Phelan has a previous possession with intent to deliver conviction. He was placed in Blair County Prison, bail set at $50,000. Promise is not good enough here, not in Blair County. So the man just invited the police into his drug den.
Was he on these drugs?
That would be the only logical explanation I can give you.
I do love this breakdown though, because now oftentimes when we have drug stories, because I have never partaken in such activities.
I am no expert. I am not able to convert in my head.
Yeah.
Like the amount of drug to the street value of said drug. My conversion, it's not real good.
So shout out to WTAJ TV here for helping us out. Like, I now know that 1 gram of meth is $100. So that's good. Next time we have a meth story, I can make the conversion.
That is, if grams equal X, then street value equals X times 100.
Perfect. That's a lot of fentanyl.
Yeah.
I will tell you this much. Anything that is valued at 25 grand is a lot of something.
Why was he in such a hurry to show the police? If somebody broke into his apartment, which I'm skeptical.
Yeah.
You know police are going to be around. Maybe pick up your drugs. Maybe leave no trace of your illegal activity, which you know to be illegal, number one, because you have a brain, and number two, you've been arrested for it already.
Barbara on YouTube makes a very deft comment here. This is why smart drug pushers don't use the products they sell.
Yes.
Don't get high on the supply.
Yes, the old adage, do not get high on your own supply.
Yeah. These guys are going to court back-to-back days. We'll have a good follow-up next week.
Yeah.
All right, who wins here?
Man, it's tough.
We've got the guy who invited the police inside where he was like running a cartel from his living room. And we've got the guy who found a bank bag with $5,000 in it and just said, this is mine now.
Yeah, I genuinely don't believe he did anything wrong. So by default, I got to go with the guy who invited police to observe his illegal drug ring.
Yeah, part of me says he did it because he was high, but I think that then circles back in this particular story to you shouldn't have gotten high.
Yeah.
So I think I'm with you. I do love that other story, though, with the bank bag. That is very funny. Shout out to our guy, Robert. Finders 9/10 of the law, sir. That's what I would tell the judge.
Yeah, I would offer to pay his bail, but he doesn't have any bail. He just had a promise to show up to court.
I think every criminal wishes that was their bail, a promise.
Bail set at pinky swear.
All right, our Altoona drug den, that is the winner today in What Is Wrong With You, which is, as always, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it at Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard. 4 new teams joined the Big 12 this year: BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, UCF. How do we think they'll fare in one of America's best conferences? We'll tell you next on 580 Sports Talk. The Division I college football season began on Saturday. We will talk a little bit more about Week 0 coming up next hour here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan with you for the rest of the show today. We've also got Royals baseball tonight, some overtime at the top of the 6 o'clock hour. We'll take you into the Royals radio network.
Quick, who are the Royals playing?
They are playing the Pittsburgh Pirates.
That is correct.
As the person who did this afternoon's last Kansas Information Network sportscast, that is the only reason I know why.
I did not learn that fact until about 11 o'clock this afternoon. I watched the whole game Friday night. Apple TV Plus.
Yeah,
they do a decent broadcast. Alex Faust is a good play-by-play guy. Ryan Spielborg, who I'm familiar with from the Rockies broadcast, is on there. I think they do a good broadcast. It looks really good. Like the picture quality is outstanding. It was a good game too. Royals got bases loaded in the 9th inning. That was all the Royals baseball I consumed. I had no desire to watch Jordan Lyles play Mr. Clanky on Saturday.
Yeah.
Sunday, I guess, was a good ball game. Nelson Velasquez homered. Andres Munoz just threw seeds past everybody in the 9th. That was that.
I feel for the
talking Royals.
Yeah, I feel a little bit for the Royals because it's the general interest in Kansas City baseball is gone for the rest of the year because
hey, at least they don't have to face Julio Rodriguez again this season.
That's true. That's very true. Because the Chiefs are starting soon. K-State starts this weekend. KU starts this weekend. A lot of good football coming up. So today we're going to begin our season preview for all the teams in the Big 12. We'll do a few a day. Today we're going to start with the newcomers to the league. BYU from the West, and then all from the East. Well, 2 from the East. Cincinnati and UCF, and then Houston from the technically the Southwest, I suppose. So we're just going to break these down in order of how Phil Steele's college football preview ranks them going into the year. So we'll start with the team at the very top, and that is UCF. And I'm fascinated by, I think I'm almost more fascinated by what they are going to be immediately than what they're going to be long-term, because I'm in the same camp as a lot of folks where I believe they're going to be a really good program in this league going forward because they've got a recruiting hotbed. They've got an administration and a fan base that wants to win and wants to be with the big boys. And I think they're going to spend a lot of time, resources, money to get to there. Can they transition this year and next into being a top half of the Big 12 kind of team? At least this year when you've got 14 teams. John Reese Plumlee is a good college football player. I don't know that he's a great quarterback, but he's a good college football player. I think Gus Malzahn is a very good coach, a little too smart for his own good sometimes, but I think he's a good coach. They've got a bunch of talent across the board on that team. I think, to me, they are clearly the best of the newcomers. I just wonder what the ceiling is when you've got a good roster, but a good American Athletic Conference roster. Right. How does that compare to the teams I would consider to be their peers in the Big 12 this year, looking at Oklahoma State, Kansas, teams like that?
And they play both of those teams. They play Kansas pretty early in Lawrence, October 7th. They open Thursday. They got Kent State. That's a win. Then they go to Boise. And Boise State should be pretty good. They should be one of the 2 best teams in the Mountain West this year. And they're always really tough to beat in Boise on the blue turf. So that wouldn't be a bad loss necessarily. But if they go up there and win, and then they're 3-0 going into their conference opener, which is at Bill Snyder Family Stadium, September 23rd. Now, I think that would put them on the radar as a team that could be, I'm not saying a league title contender. I don't believe that at all. But I think they could be sneaky tough in the league and maybe go over 500 in the league. I think that's a reasonable mark for them to shoot for, is to be a plus 500 team in the league, to win more than you lose in league play. Road games, K-State, KU, Oklahoma, Cincinnati, Texas Tech. Home games, Baylor, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, and Houston. They could go at least 3-1 at home. Are there 2 road wins in there?
Man, it's so hard to predict. It's harder for them to predict, I think, because I think their roster is so much better than the others who are coming in. Mm-hmm. So it's just, it depends on what you think about their talent and their coaching versus this grind of this schedule, which this year is a grind. Like, they don't, I guess Villanova, since that's their FCS team in week 3, but they don't really get an easy week, so to speak, after that, because Boise State is going to be really tough on the road. In Manhattan is going to be tough. I don't love their schedule lining up for, record-wise for this year, at Texas Tech is brutal. Playing them is going to be tough anyway, but having to go to Lubbock late in the year, that's going to be tough. At Oklahoma is going to be tough. They have to come to Lawrence. I think their home schedule is actually one of the better home schedules of anyone in the league this year. So I will say no. I'm going to err on the side of the more conservative approach with this team. I'm going to say no, they don't get that second win on the road, but I wouldn't be surprised, though.
Okay.
And I do think Malzahn is the right coach for this period in UCF history. I really do.
So I think that's the swing. If I'll say 7 wins. I'll say 7 for UCF, trending towards 6. I think they're closer to 6 wins than they are 8 in their first year. But I think they're in that neighborhood.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
8 wins at best. Maybe things go wrong. They only win 5, but I think they will be a bowl eligible team.
Do you think that's a fair comparison to say KU, Oklahoma State, probably their closest comps?
The neighborhood they're living in, yeah. I think that's talent wise. I think that's about right.
Because I think they're still a clear step behind, just in terms of name brand talent, so to speak. Like you look at the projected starting lineup for this team. Reese Plumlee's been around for a long time. Ole Miss originally before coming over to UCF. He was an all-league guy last year, but they just don't have a lot of names that you've heard of because UCF's had a bunch of those dudes over time.
Yeah.
A ton of NFL talent.
The Griffin twins. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think they have the roster that's on a TCU, K-State, even Baylor kind of level, but they're better than what's below Kansas.
Are they going 0-2 in the Sunflower State this year?
Yes.
I will say yes.
I will say yes, they do. That might be the swing for them, honestly, getting to their max or below that. All right, after that, let's get to BYU next, because I think BYU is fascinating. I like this team. I like what this team is built. I like Kalani Sitake a lot. I do feel like this is going to be a little bit of a step back this year for BYU, because, again, I think they've graduated so much talent in the last couple of years. Really good quarterbacks. Say what you will about Zach Wilson in the NFL. He was really good at BYU. Jaron Hall, really good at BYU. He's in the NFL now. You bring in Keaton Slovis, which is, as a transfer portal acquisition, that's pretty good. There's also a reason he's going to be on his 3rd team in 3 years. So what is he going to be able to offer you? You've lost out on running backs and wide receivers. Like, you lose Puka Nacua, who has been around forever.
Gunnar Romney was your stud wide receiver. He's out. He's gone now.
So, again, I think it's just a matter of, I think all these schools would have loved to have joined last year.
Yeah, that's a great point.
BYU and Cincinnati especially, had they joined last year, I think they probably feel a lot more comfortable about their start in the Big 12. Whereas this year, it just feels like a little bit of a reset, which, by the same token, to be fair, if you're ever going to reset, it's probably your first year in the league when you're in a bunch of new TV markets and a bunch of new households and a bunch of new recruiting grounds where you can say, hey, look, notice us. And you can start bringing in that Florida and Texas talent.
They'll start 2-0. They'll beat Sam Houston State. They'll beat Southern Utah. They are at Arkansas September 16th, week 3. That is going to tell us a lot. If they are competitive in that game, I think that will bode really well. If Arkansas flattens them, look out. Their conference opener at KU, September 23rd. Home games, Cincinnati, Texas Tech, Iowa State, Oklahoma. Road games, Kansas, TCU, Texas, West Virginia, and Oklahoma State. I think they can get a road win, but maybe only one. This could be a team, I think BYU is going to be a solid program year in, year out in this league, but man, especially if Arkansas just caves them in week 3, this could be a team that falls short of bowl eligibility. And if they do they fire Kalani Sitake?
I don't think
they
so.
They had expectations last year and they only won 8 games.
Yeah.
If they miss a bowl this year, which I think is entirely possible, I'll give them, man, it's tough to see a 6th win.
Yeah, so I'm looking.
It would have to be at KU or at Oklahoma State, I think.
And see, I'm, reading through Steele's breakdown here. He's got BYU's secondary ranked as the 2nd worst in the league. Team with a secondary that bad is not beating KU. I genuinely believe they're not beating KU in Lawrence.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a tough one.
I think they get Oklahoma State. That might be for bowl eligibility, November 25th.
That's actually a lot of fun for the final week of the season.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun at the end there. Cincinnati and Houston. Tough spot for both to be in. We've talked about it before with Cincinnati, and both these teams, I think, are in a bad situation with their head coach. I'm not sure how much Dana Holgerson's heart is still in it at Houston. I'm not sure how much faith Houston has in Dana Holgerson at the same time. And I just hated the Satterfield hire at Cincinnati.
I did too.
Louisville could not have gotten rid of him fast enough. They put up no resistance to letting him leave. And your rival is going to take him, and they're just like, okay, cool, we're going to hire someone better than Jeff Brom. That, to me, sends up tons of red flags.
Cincinnati is starting 2-3. They're going to lose at Pitt. They're going to lose to Oklahoma. I think they're going to lose at BYU before the bye. After that, they've got Iowa State and Baylor at home, at Oklahoma State, home to UCF, at Houston, at West Virginia, home to Kansas. This is kind of a gentle schedule.
Yeah, it really is.
For Cincinnati. I don't know, though, like if they start 2-3 before the bye, which I think they will, they're going to beat Eastern Kentucky and Miami, Ohio. I think they'll beat Iowa State, because I can't pick Iowa State right now to beat anybody, because I don't know what that's going to look like with all your best players getting shoeless Joe Jackson. I don't know if I see 3 more wins in those final 6 weeks. Maybe they win at West Virginia. Could they go to Houston? Could they win? Could they beat UCF or Kansas at home? I guess that's possible, but they feel kind of 5-win-ish to me too. Like I don't know if that's a bowl team.
Houston and West Virginia are the 2 easiest road games you can get, because I think those are 2 of the 3 worst teams in the league. So that's favorable for Cincinnati for sure. That Kansas one at the end of the season is going to be fascinating. Is Kansas going to be as good as we think they can be? And is this Cincinnati team going to have given up on their coach by that point? And I don't mean to pile on, but I kind of feel like pile on because I just hated that hire so much. So I don't think culturally Cincinnati and Louisville are all that different as programs. So I'm just not sure what is going to make a bad situation at one place better at the other. The other thing, too, about Cincinnati, and we have talked about this before, is Emory Jones good? Like, is he a good quarterback? Because that's who's starting this year, or expected to start for Cincinnati. They lose Ben Bryant, who had been there. Ben Bryant was fine. Lions Township High School legend. Was fine. A fine, good, starting American Athletic Conference quarterback. He transfers back to Northwestern, back home. Emory Jones, we have no idea if he's any good. He's been at 2 schools already with a big shrug. They only bring like 3 guys on their offensive starting group.
Played worse at Arizona State than he did at Florida, too. I think that bears mentioning as well. Quick thoughts on Houston.
Yeah.
They could start 0-1 because they play UTSA in their opener on Saturday.
I believe they will.
And the Roadrunners are good.
Legit good.
I think that might be a loss. And if you go 0-1, like they'll beat Rice, but 1-1 going into TCU, that's a home game for Houston, first game in a new conference. Maybe they can steal that one. That's where it could get interesting, because there's a chance it could be 3-1 through 4, or even 4-0 going to Texas Tech. But I think they're going to lose at least 1, if not 2, of their first 4 games. And then Texas Tech's going to beat them in Lubbock before the bye. Then they've got West Virginia at home, Texas at home, at K-State, at Baylor, at home against Cincinnati, at home against Oklahoma State, and at UCF. If they could be 2-5 through their first 7.
Yeah. They've got to stack wins, or like I'm looking at that before their bye the first week of October. I see 2 and 3. I think they lose to UTSA, lose to TCU, lose to Texas Tech. They have a stretch of 3 games from October 21st through November 4th where they play Texas, at K-State, at Baylor in a row. Those are all losses for this Houston team. So if they don't stack wins early, they don't steal that one from UTSA or get lucky against TCU.
Yeah, they might have
not a bowl team.
4-8 or 3-9. They lost their stud running back to transfer to Colorado. They could have problems.
Let's get to a break. We've got 1 hour of 580 Sports Talk left, including our headlines. We'll recap week 0 and more here on 580 WIBW. 580 Sports Talk on this Monday afternoon. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. He's Dan Lucero. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. Our whole crew for a while, just the two of us for the second half of the show today. If you've missed anything from the show, either head to our YouTube. It's called 580 Sports Talk. That's the name of the channel. Where you can go and watch live right now, hop into the comment section, or you can go rewind and see anything from the first 3 hours of the show that you may have missed today or just want to relive. Or head to our website, 580wibw.com. Go to the podcasts tab, click on 580 Sports Talk, and that's where you'll find the show broken down into nice, easy to digest, hour-by-hour bites. Perfect way to consume 580 Sports Talk if you don't get to listen to the show live. We've got Royals baseball coming up tonight, 7:10 first pitch, 6:30 pregame on the Royals radio network here on 580 WIBW. It'll be Zach Greinke on the mound against Johan Oviedo of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Here's a question for you. Do you know what Zach Greinke's record is this year?
I believe he's 1-12.
That's right. 1-12.
That's a drag.
5.73 ERA, I believe, or is it 5.34? Something with a, I know it starts with a 5.
I've got Baseball Reference open. Let me scroll. 5.34.
5.34. Okay. I have a lot of respect for Zach coming back this year and coming back to the Royals this year. And I hope Royals fans do too, that he wanted to be with this team, because he probably could have found somewhere else to go that would have been a better team. But knowing he didn't have a whole lot left, and he's admitted as much, and sticking around with this team, I think that should mean a lot, and I hope Royals fans revere him more than they already do.
You know what I really think rules about Zach Greinke? 114 2/3 innings, 15 walks.
Awesome.
Like, he's not out there nibbling.
Yeah.
He is challenging hitters to beat him. And beat him they are. But he is at least challenging them to beat him. And I respect that so much. He is not going down nibbling at the strike zone. He's going to bring the best he's got left. And if you beat him, you beat him. And again, that is happening quite frequently. Hence the 1-12 record. But I do admire that he's competing in the way that he competes.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's not been a whole lot to be positive about this year, so you might as well be positive that the oldest guy on the team, one of the oldest guys in the league, is still busting his butt every single time he goes out there.
In contrast, there is Jordan Lyles, who is submitting one of the worst seasons in the history of Major League Baseball as a starting pitcher. I don't think that's inaccurate to say. He's at negative 1.6 wins above replacement, according to Baseball Reference. He has a 6.51 earned run average. He leads the American League in losses, home runs allowed, earned runs allowed, and also hilariously complete games. He has inspired the following poem from our pal, the Bard, Christopher, in the YouTube comments today. The hitters all love Jordan Lyles, total homers of 2.5 miles. Rushing for the bat rack, gonna get a good hack, and crossing the plate, they're all smiles. There is indeed a fight at the bat rack, I got to imagine, every time Jordan Lyles is in the game. I did not wish this particular bit of misery on Royals fans. You may recall that Jordan Lyles pitched for my favorite team from 2014 to 2017 and did not pitch to any particular distinction there either. But now we can share in the agony together of what it is to have Jordan Lyles taking starts for your baseball team. It usually means something has gone horribly wrong.
The latest in an illustrious group of former Royals and Rockies. Jordan Lyles, Drew Butera.
I keep waiting for Wade Davis, Jeremy Affeldt, Desi Relaford, Kit Pello. Like, I could
Greg Holland.
I could do this all day.
Yeah.
I keep waiting for the Rockies Royals square on the Immaculate Grid. I have not seen it yet. I'm going to ruin my whole day trying to figure out how to get the lowest possible sicko score. Do I put Felipe Paulino here? Do I put Jeremy Guthrie here? Do I put Brent Maine or Nafi Perez here? I could do this all day. Ex-Rockies/Royals. I could do it all day. Nobody is more of an authority on that topic than me. If it were the final category on Jeopardy, I would win the money. I would take down Ken Jennings himself.
I had a 0.1% on, I think it was the Football Immaculate Grid yesterday. I was very proud of myself.
That's awesome.
Which one was it? It was the bottom left corner. I don't remember what the teams were. It was a Steeler and someone. I don't remember who it was. A bear. Oh, it was a Bear. And I knew it. My answer was Rashawn Coward. He's an offensive lineman. Not very good. And the reason I knew that is because it was there was a Reddit post a few years ago where a guy left a post and said, "Hey, I think someone is getting traded from the Bears to the Steelers today because I was just gaming with his wife and he said so in the background." Lo and behold, 4:00 Eastern that day, Rashawn Coward was traded from the Bears to the Steelers.
That's wild.
So I knew that one. I was very proud of
the
that.
best is when you get the 0.0 something.
Yeah.
Percent. That really revs my engine when you can do that.
A little higher than normal for you. I think it was today. 137 was it?
Yeah, rough grid today. They had gold gloves on the grid. I have a couple of blind spots on the awards. I'm not real good at coming up with like old timey gold glovers. Like other than the obvious ones. Like I know Brooks Robinson won a bunch. Like Jim Cott won a bunch.
Sure.
Like Bill Mazeroski. Like I know some of them, but I'm not like super well versed. Those and rookies of the year I generally really struggle with.
Yeah.
And there was a gold glove category today, and that blew up my rarity score pretty good. I did have a 0.5%. My Diamondback / athletic today was the outfielder Connor Jackson. 0.5%.
Nice. Well done.
Yeah, felt good about that.
Just in case you might not know what we're talking about, ImmaculateGrid.com. It's run by the Sports Reference guys. It's the best game on the internet for people who really love sports. And if you are one of the two of us, and also if you listen to Sports Talk Radio regularly, that probably includes you.
Yes. Like, get up on the grid, y'all. Send me your grids. Send them.
Yeah, send them to us.
Yes, send us your grids. Put them. Just send them to us on Twitter or whatever. It is the first thing. Like, I wake up, I clear the cobwebs, I do the Wordle, and then I do the grid, and then I do the football grid.
Yeah, they've got now baseball, men's basketball, women's basketball for you WNBA heads out there. A football grid, hockey, and soccer. I touched the soccer tab one time, and that was enough.
I pulled up the soccer grid once, and it was a bunch of like Premier League teams. Like, hey, all right, I might fill out like maybe 5 or 6. The other day, it was a bunch of Spanish league teams. I wasn't 100% sure which clubs were being represented. I just noped out of there so fast.
So yeah, if you haven't played it, ImmaculateGrid.com. It's a lot of fun. It's a fun way to pass the time, fun way to remember some guys. In case you're one of the few people who has not played the Immaculate Grid as of yet. Want to get to some headlines?
Let's do it. I have a Royals headline while we're there.
Let's go.
You want to start with the Royals
Let's
headline
lead off
here?
with the Royals.
580 Sports headline. It's not great. Brady Singer's being shut down for a week with some velocity loss, sharpness loss, a little bit of soreness in his arm. The Royals are planning on skipping his next start. So he's not going to start until next week. This feels precautionary, and we should all hope that it is. Matt Quatrero says that they're just going to skip him this week and not start him and just pass his turn in the rotation. Brady Singer told Ann Rodgers of MLB.com, who then posted it on the website formerly known as Twitter. Late in the year fatigue, we thought it was smart to skip one and then get back to it next time. So Brady Singer will not pitch this week. He was not great against the Mariners on Friday night. The innings kind of snowballed on him. I think the 4th inning in particular really was the one that snowballed on him. Still had some good swing and miss stuff, which he has been better at, certainly in the second half of the year. But you could tell there was not as much zip on the fastball. He was down a couple miles per hour. And so the Royals are doing the precautionary thing to shut him down for a start.
Honestly, and I know you should do this anyway, but especially in the wake of the best baseball player in the world having soreness multiple times recently and then ending up tearing his UCL, Shohei Ohtani, for those who have been under a rock. Yeah, sit him down. Honestly, give him 2 weeks. Do not ever let it get to a point where there might be something more serious. Let him get back to 100%.
Yes. Like, what is the difference between the games he starts and the games you have somebody else start for him? I honestly, I understand he's a competitor, wants to finish the season on a high note. Maybe give him one more. Don't leave the court on a miss. Go out, pitch good 6 innings against somebody, and then just throw it in neutral for the rest of the year. Shut it down.
The only downside of that would be he might actually fight Matt Quatrero.
Yeah,
he might fight him.
He is still the guy who cursed out the rain when there was a rain delay in college.
Which the downside of that, the negative spin is he might be nuts. The positive spin, he also might be Roger Clemens.
Yeah,
Roger Clemens known for yelling at God on the mound sometimes.
Throwing a bat at Mike Piazza.
So you take the good with the bad sometimes. But yeah, I would personally sit Singer for at least 2 weeks. Just skip him 3 times in rotation. So what? You stink. You're 41-91, and it's about to be September on Friday. You can give him a break. First headline for me today, it does indeed sound like we are going to get expansion in the ACC. Now, the presidents of the ACC already met recently, within the last 2 weeks, to talk about expanding and adding Cal, Stanford from the Pac-12, and also SMU, because SMU was willing to join the league for no money for upwards of as many as 7 years, which is nuts and I think kind of stupid, but it's
utterly bonkers. But
yes,
they are the only, other than Rice, they are the only Southwest Conference team that is not playing big boy football now that Houston's in the Big 12.
And Rice is cool with it.
Yeah, Rice is an academic institution first. SMU has envy.
SMU has, they have major, my dad's a lawyer and is a better lawyer than your dad energy. That's kind of SMU's entire thing. And they want to be in a power league worse than anything. And it sounds like it might happen. So they were already met a couple weeks ago, and they said no. They had one too many no votes to pass it. Florida State, North Carolina, Clemson, the power brokers essentially said, no, we're not in favor of this. Well, it was reported earlier today that the presidents were going to meet again tonight. Now, that has been postponed because of another tragic active shooter incident, this time at the University of North Carolina. Obviously, thoughts and prayers go to them. It's utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, mentioned at the top of the hour in the CBS News. That's still a developing story. Sounds like a faculty member was killed today. Awful.
Just dreadful. Real quick, I am going to tread very lightly here. There was also a shooting at a high school football game that led to the death of a 16-year-old student at a game in Oklahoma on Friday night.
Saw that. We all saw the video.
Like, God, I'm not anti-Second Amendment. Like, I'm not. But what are we doing? Why are you bringing a gun to a high school football game? We do What Is Wrong With You as a fun joke segment every day, and it's a blast. Legitimately, what is wrong with you? Why are you bringing a gun to a high school football game? Like, you want to own them? Fine. Keep them in your car, keep them in your truck, keep them at home, keep them on you, whatever. Why are you unholstering a gun at a high school football game?
2 people got shot at the White Sox game the other night.
Sad. There are ways to be a responsible legal owner and not do this. It's very tragic. It is very sad, and I wish that I had more than just thoughts and prayers that I could offer you. Anyway, I'm sorry. I know someone out there is very mad at me for bringing this up. I understand that. Don't turn off the station. We're moving on from it. I'm just telling you, it's a high school football, a 16-year-old kid, man. Anyway, we'll get beyond that. Again, I will tread lightly. Moving on to the
fun to the toy department.
The fun stuff. They have postponed this meeting because of the shooting incident at North Carolina. They will meet likely sometime later on this week. I can't believe this is happening. I agreed with the soccer coach. What's his last name?
Anson Dorrance.
Anson Dorrance, thank you. At North Carolina. This does not benefit the ACC except for one reason that I saw brought up this morning. The ACC's contract with ESPN. It always comes back to Disney. It always comes back to the mouse. ACC contract with ESPN. It states that ESPN is allowed to renegotiate the contract, like a built-in trigger that they can renegotiate the contract if less than 15 teams, fewer than 15 teams are in the league. And the ACC is currently treading water with the likes of Florida State and Clemson, among others. Because Florida State's saying, hey, we want more money. We've been carrying your sorry butts up and down this conference for years, which recently has not really been the case, but you get it. They have essentially threatened, without saying as much, that they will leave and try to go somewhere else. We'll see if that actually happens. So by adding Cal, Stanford, and SMU, this would actually give the league something of a safety net that even if 2 or 3 schools left the current arrangement, they would still get their equal share of money. So actually, from a business perspective, I get that. From every other perspective, this is dumb. This is D-U-M-B dumb.
Makes no sense. But $55 million a year more to split among those schools, that's more money. I was trying to explain to my wife why all of this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And the simplest way I could think to explain it to her is nobody is in charge of college football. So now the people who are in charge of college football are the network executives at ESPN, Fox, CBS, and NBC.
Mhm.
They are the commissioners of college football. And what happens in college football, what happens to college football, what happens with regard to conference realignment is essentially dictated by the interests of network executives and not like anything else that makes any sense to like fans of the sport
And
or the
subsequently
players and the coaches.
advertisers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all about that. Like that's the simplest way I can describe like what's happening here.
I was talking to my parents on the phone yesterday, and I was talking to my dad, and he asked, are the new schools joining the Big 12 this year? And I said, yeah, this is the first year for Houston, BYU, UCF, Cincinnati. And I said, but then they're adding, and he asked, are they going to, he thought they had changed the name of the league, and he's like, are they the Big 8 again? Big 12? Like, what's the name? I said, no, they're the Big 12, and they'll stay there even when they add another 4 teams next year. And he said, oh, they're adding 4 more teams? And I was like, yeah, they're Colorado and Utah and the Arizona schools. My dad's big football fan, and watches tons of college football, tons of NFL. But even he had not like heard about all of this. And he's like, wow, why? Like, well,
how much time you
I
got?
was going to say, what else are you doing this afternoon? But I mean, it's insane. I would also like to point this out, and we can move on to another headline after this. This has been brought up by other folks as well. Every time I hear, how can you leave academic institutions like the University of California, Berkeley, and Stanford out of the mix? Because they don't care about football,
Yes.
dude. I don't care that they have... I am proud of my alma mater, that the degree I got was at KU Journalism School. Very good school.
Mhm.
Good program. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of my alma mater as an institution, most of the time anyway. This is about football and basketball, dude. I don't care. I don't care that Cal has, like, all of the future senators from the state of California currently going there. That means nothing to me. Do they care about football? Is their stadium going to literally fall into the earth the next time there's a Northern California earthquake? Those are things that should matter here.
You know what else?
They're great schools.
Yeah, you know what else is a great school? The University of Chicago. They don't play big-time college football anymore.
No.
Rice. Great academic institution. They don't play big-time college football anymore.
No.
They're barely competitive in Division I. You know what else is a great academic school? Carnegie Mellon. Should we let them into the ACC?
My grandpa went to Carnegie Mellon.
Is that right?
Yeah, smart guy. It's just so stupid. So many of the arguments are just ridiculous or lacking logic. Figure it out. Stanford is in Palo Alto, California. It does not belong in the Atlantic Coast Conference, taking trips to Blacksburg for women's swimming. It just doesn't make sense.
No.
It's dumb. Stupid.
The ACC going to call themselves a conference of champions after Stanford wins NCAA swimming and rowing and all the other things it always wins?
Yeah, how many ACC programs have rowing? How many, or not even like sailing?
I bet Virginia's got baller rowing.
Let's see.
Virginia seemed like the kind of school that's got crew.
Oh, Stanford, Virginia is going to be a real rivalry. Same with Cal. The Intercollegiate Sailing Association. Stanford. Cal is actually not in that one, although the California State Maritime Academy is. Yeah, I mean, they're competing with Tufts and the Coast Guard. I got to be honest. The Coast Guard and Navy better win those sailing titles.
How does the Coast Guard ever lose sailing?
That's
not good if they're losing at sailing.
MIT, Hobart and William Smith. The State University of New York Maritime College. And Stanford's flaunting this how can you leave us out? Because you stink at the sports that actually generate interest.
Yeah.
Jeez. By the way, there's also 2 Canadian teams, Queens and McGill. Shocking McGill competes in sailing.
Next headline for me on our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We told you earlier today, or at least alluded to it, that the Arizona Cardinals will be making a change at quarterback. You already know that Kyler Murray is hurt. He's going to be placed on the injured reserve to start the season. Will miss extended time as he continues to recuperate from his torn ACL. Colt McCoy was the nominal starter entering camp. Colt McCoy is going to be cut by the Cardinals. That leaves them with the recently acquired Joshua Dobbs and 5th-round draft pick Clayton Tune as their options to start their Week 1 game. Who's going to start Week 1? Well, you know who's not going to tell you is Cardinals head coach Jonathan Gannon, who says he won't name a starting quarterback because he wants to maintain a, quote, competitive advantage. End quote.
Congratulations, Arizona Cardinals. You have hired David Beatty. All right. Woo! You hired a dope.
So
They had
that video of him when he met Rondale Moore
for
the first time. And he shook his hand, and then standing there in front of another grown man went, and I am not making this up, and you can't, unless you're on the YouTube, see my hand gestures here. They're part of the story, but he starts waving his fingers in all directions and makes this sound, pew, 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 in front of a grown man to start describing the kinds of plays he wants to run with Rondale Moore. It gave off such immense Kendall Roy energy from Succession that I cannot. They fired Kendall Roy, the Kendall Roy of coaches, Cliff Kingsbury, to hire the Kendall Roy of coaches in Jonathan Gannon. Enjoy your one season in Arizona.
So I have read, I should say, that the plan for Gannon is that he is going to have a less involved role in the play calling for the defense. That is defensive coordinator, Nick Rallis is going to handle a lot of the, Gannon will be the quote unquote CEO coach, which I kind of hate that term because I think it's really reductive, but Rallis is going to have the majority of the say on defense, which is probably good because Gannon's defense wasn't actually all that good in Philadelphia. The players were great. The scheme was not. And as Matt Verderame told us earlier, anytime they played a real quarterback, they really struggled a lot. Hell, they struggled against Jordan Love, who last year was not exactly a real quarterback. And I'm supportive of my guy, but let's call a spade here. I just don't know. That personality has to be such a perfect fit to be a head coach. And I really don't know that it will be. And that team is going to be terrible. Their roster is awful. The vibe is bad. The ownership is terrible. You got Clayton Tune or Josh Dobbs. Matt Verderame told us it's going to be Tune who starts week 1.
Because he's been in camp.
I don't know, man.
Offense?
Dobbs started 2 games last year, having been with the Titans for 3 minutes. I might Clayton Tune doesn't look like he's going to be long for the NFL, which, hey, congratulations on making it to the NFL. You're already in the 1% of the 1%. But I don't know, man. It feels bleak for Arizona right now, to say the least. I feel for my guy, Colt McCoy. There was a story on ESPN.com about him last week about how he told his kids they can't have a dog until he retires, and then his kids just kept badgering him to retire. And they're like, are you quitting yet? Is this your last year?
We just want a dog.
And he was like, this was a mistake. I shouldn't have told them this. Now he might actually.
Yeah, that might be the end of the line for Colt McCoy.
Hot take, I would take him in Green Bay. I am very worried about our backup quarterback because it's Sean Clifford.
Yeah, I would be too.
Who is 35, but it's not really, but it feels like it. He made some plays during the preseason where I thought, damn, he looks like an NFL quarterback throwing the ball. Then there were times I genuinely thought he was closing his eyes when he threw the ball. Dude, backups are supposed to be smart with the ball, play in structure, live to punt another day. Just don't do anything stupid. Sean Clifford's out here, bird box, blindfold on, just chucking the ball all over. This is scary. This is very worrisome to me. One final headline for me today. Remember Marcus Adams Jr.?
Yes, a KU great.
4-star recruit from California, reclassified. He was originally supposed to be in next year's recruiting class for basketball, reclassified to 2023. Allegedly, there was maybe some NIL involvement that swung him to go to KU. Bill Self got involved. He made a call at the last second before Adams signed. He flips from UCLA to Kansas. He got to campus this summer and determined it wasn't for him. Not a great fit, maybe culturally for him. Maybe a little immaturity, maybe just not the right vibe. Reporting and rumors from McCarthy Hall indicated that maybe it just wasn't a great mix with the rest of the roster. Fine, it happens sometimes. He leaves, said he didn't have a whole lot of nice things to say about Kansas, commits to Gonzaga. Well, last night it was reported that he has left Gonzaga and is now staying in the transfer portal. Apparently he never got financial aid, so technically he doesn't have to spend a year of eligibility at Gonzaga before re-entering the portal. He's not going to play this year because it's about to be September and he doesn't have a school, and he's already been to 2 this calendar year. Eric Bossy from 24/7 Sports said it's going to be hard for him to find a way to play this year, and frankly, I don't think he's going to. Maybe that'll be the best for him so we can get a year to just go somewhere, be away from home, settle down, and mature a little bit. But also, leaving Kansas and Gonzaga before you ever have like an official practice during the year, not a great look.
No, that makes you wonder if something else is going on.
Yeah.
And just like not insidious, like
right.
nothing like that. Just wonder like what else is going on behind the scenes and who's in this kid's ear. Somebody maybe in his ear giving him some bad advice or what. But I just kind of hope he can land in a place that'll allow him to mature and develop and maybe not worry so much about being a 4-star recruit, making a big impact right away, and just like enjoy college for a year. Enjoy basketball. Get stronger, be around older guys, and get ready for college basketball for that. But yeah, weird story for the former KU recruit Marcus Adams. We have to get to our first time out of this 5 o'clock hour. On the other side of this break, week 0 on Saturday. Some really fun college football on the opening day of the season. We'll get to that next on 580 Sports Talk. NFL cutdown day is tomorrow. A handful of guys have already been cut. Notable guys have already been cut or waived by teams. Former Chief Taco Charlton was waived by who was he with most recently? I don't even remember who cut him. He's been cut. Was it Dallas?
No, I think it was someone else that he was most recently with. 49ers.
Yeah.
You know he was with the 49ers?
Nope.
I didn't. By the way, low-key, great immaculate grid player. Taco Charlton has been in the NFL for 6 years and has played for 5 teams.
Seattle?
No.
No?
He never played a regular season game for Seattle.
Okay. When Dallas, Kansas City.
He was with Chicago for 5 games.
Okay.
Miami for 10. He even started 5 games for Miami in 2019. And then he spent 11 games with the Steelers in 21. He was with Chicago last year. Yeah.
I'll have to remember that.
Yeah. Keep that in mind for your immaculate grids coming up. Immaculate gridiron, if you will, coming up here in the near future. Max Duggan was also just waived by the Los Angeles Chargers. Tom Pelissero tweeted that out from NFL Network and said he'll be an interesting name to watch on waivers. I've got nothing but love for Max Duggan. We watched him pour his heart out in that Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, remarkable season.
All-time great season. TCU legend. He might get a statue at TCU. He won the Davey O'Brien. I watched all 3 Chargers games for at least a little bit. During this time of year, I'll leave NFL Network on a lot and just let them rotate through the replays of preseason games. So I watched at least some of Max Duggan in every preseason game the Chargers played. It didn't look like he was playing football. Easton Stick is the backup for the Chargers. He's been in the league for a few years now, former NDSU quarterback.
Omaha Creighton Prep legend, Easton Stick.
He looked like he knew what he was doing. Like, not a starter, but he knew what he was doing as a backup. Max Duggan looked like he was playing rugby. Like, it was rough. I'm not really sure there's any interest in that waiver wire, but maybe. I wish nothing but the best for him. College football, great, but as we know, that doesn't always translate. We did have some great football this weekend. There were a handful of games, really entertaining. The day started with Notre Dame whooping Navy. And love Navy. I always root for Navy when it comes to the Army-Navy game. My mom's dad, my grandfather, he served in the Navy in World War II. Big Navy fans. Loved Ken Niumatalolo, who's obviously not there anymore. It is going to be a long year for Navy.
Yeah, that looked bleak.
As Spencer Hall put it on Twitter, they might be turbo bad. And I think that might be underselling it. They could move the ball a little bit, but then...
Because it's the option. And
right.
They'll always have that element of surprise and that element of nobody else runs this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a different look. It will throw teams off. It'll keep them off balance a little bit. But Notre Dame sees it every year.
Yeah.
And they were ready for it.
And you also gave them an entire summer to prepare for it.
Yeah, that too.
Here's a fun stat. How many points has Navy scored in the last 5 first halves of their season openers? So 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, those last 5 years, their season opener, how many points have they scored in first halves total?
14.
They have not scored a point in the first half of their last 5 season openers.
Oh, no.
They kicked a field goal down by $1 billion this week.
They did.
They went overseas to kick a sad field goal, man.
Hey, sad field goals make me feel alive. Like, I was happy to see it. It made me feel like college football was really and truly back. For Notre Dame's part, Audric Estime looks like a legitimate star at running back.
Yes.
And Sam Hartman is maybe the most likable Notre Dame player ever.
Depending on how you feel about Notre Dame, maybe ever. He's also their best quarterback since Brady Quinn.
Yeah. It's not a high bar to clear. Like, Ian Book was fine.
Yeah, Book was good. He was
Sam
a winner.
Hartman is a ceiling raiser.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
He makes all the throws. He's got everything in the toolbox.
That conversation I was telling you about with my dad on the phone yesterday, we were talking about the game, and I mentioned, it also helps that Notre Dame's quarterback is a grown man. He goes, I saw the pictures of him in the paper this morning when they were talking in the Chicago Tribune talking about him. He's got a full beard and everything. He's a grown adult.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really good.
COVID rules.
Really good player. And I think that Notre Dame's going to be tough.
Jacksonville State, their first ever game in FBS. They won a thriller.
Shout out to Rich Rodriguez. Always liked Rich Rod. I thought he got a raw deal at Michigan.
Yeah.
And I think that it's pretty neat to see him have more success at Jacksonville State.
He had some real success building at Arizona, then maybe some off the field indiscretion, maybe. Or alleged indiscretions kind of led to things falling apart there. Jacksonville State would be a bowl team should they be eligible. Well, they're not. But if they were eligible for a bowl, they would get there this year if they had a quarterback worth a darn. That quarterback worried me. I was afraid they were going to knock some fans out with some of those overthrown passes. Looked kind of bleak. UTEP, Dana Dimmel, not his finest showing. Other games that really stood out, Ohio, I was really expecting a lot from Curtis Rourke. Then he got hurt. And without Curtis Rourke, Ohio is really bad.
Yeah.
Really, really bad. Hawaii, they fought well against Vandy.
They did. They've made a lot of improvement. Vandy wiped them off the planet when they played last year in the season opener.
63-10 last year.
Yeah.
This was a one-score game in Hawaii. You had a chance.
Yes. Yeah. And at Nashville.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to their scoreboard, which is being hung up by a crane right now while they finish the stadium there in Nashville. So they got a scoreboard on a crane. It's so funny.
And then it was billowing in the breeze too because it stormed there.
Yeah.
That was precarious.
Yeah, it was a little uncomfortable. But no, that was extremely funny. Yeah, it looks like Hawaii's really improved, which is cool.
One of the best games, probably the best game of the day. I mean, Louisiana Tech, Florida International was close. Former Boise State quarterback Hank Bachmeier is at Louisiana Tech. That wasn't exactly a well-played game, but it was close.
No, I did. That was probably the one I watched the least of.
San Diego State, Ohio was close, but Ohio was just god-awful. UMass and New Mexico State. I thought New Mexico State was going to win because I was trusting Jerry Kill and the fact that UMass hadn't won an FBS game since 2018. Tyson Pumachan is the real deal Holyfield. He was running well. He was throwing well. They have 18 transfers, I believe, from other Power 5 schools, or at least FBS schools on that roster, including 9 from Arizona or something. UMass might not be good. They're not going to be awful this year, though. They've got too much talent there. And if anyone's going to make it work there, it's Don Brown.
Yeah.
He is UMass through and through.
Made it work there before.
Yep.
Yeah. Pumachan was exhilarating to watch. Like, that was so out of nowhere for him to do what he did, because New Mexico State, like, they're not world beaters, but they were a bowl team last year.
They went 8-5.
Yeah, so you expected them to put up a bit more of a fight. Diego Pavia, their quarterback, he is a trick bag. You just don't know what you're going to get from him on a snap in, snap out basis. I mean, I saw him make some big time throws late in the game to keep it close. I also saw him make some throws where I wondered if he maybe might be legally blind.
There's a famous tweet from the great John Boyce that's about, why would you watch playoff hockey when you could just snort cocaine and jump out of a helicopter on a motorcycle?
Yeah.
That's watching Diego Pavia. Play to play. It could be the greatest play you've ever seen or the worst.
They got the running back's real good too. He busted an 80-yard run.
Yeah.
Like, that was a fun game. I didn't enjoy the outcome for financial purposes.
Same.
But Tyson Pumachan, that's going to be somebody to check in on. And if UMass is on TV, that's not going to be an auto skip. They had one game on TV last year. It was on like a local access cable channel in Connecticut.
Yeah. We tried to. I think we could only find it on the Roku possibly.
Yes,
you could
had
download
to
it.
download the Roku app and you could watch it.
Awesome. Absolutely love that.
That's college football to me, man.
Speaking of finances, a good weekend.
It ended up in the red, in the black. The little late drama in San Jose State USC. That onside kick was massive.
Yes. Big time.
Yeah, when I am screaming at this, don't onside kick. What are you doing? And then they recovered it, and then it took like 15 minutes to review whether it had been a legal play. And Lincoln Riley was losing his mind. That was kind of funny. That was actually really fun to watch for a couple reasons. San Jose State's going to be tough in the Mountain West this year. Chevin Cordiero, their quarterback, is legitimately good. And Nick Nash looks like a big-time wide receiver. He made some outstanding plays.
I love their coach. I think Brent Brennan's an awesome coach.
So, San Jose State, for being a G5 team, a Mountain West team, I think it'll be really, really tough in that league. But USC has Caleb Williams, and they also have Zachariah Branch, who to me was the most exciting player from week 1. Returned a kick for a touchdown. He looked like Reggie Bush running around out there in that Cardinal and gold for USC. So USC is kind of who we remember them being the last we saw them. They've got playmakers all over the field, dudes that leave vapor trails behind them when they run up and down the field. And they've got the reigning Heisman winner at quarterback. Defensively, have we mentioned their offense?
Alex Grinch has to be doing a bit. This has to be intentional, because that's the thing that sucks about USC is that offense is so fun and Caleb Williams is so good and they've got so many playmakers. It is not going to matter one lick when you get to the end of the season because they just can't play defense. I mean, they were getting gashed. It should have been worse. They're going to get torched. But with how good the quarterbacks are in the Pac-12 this year, Washington, Oregon, Utah once rising is healthy. Oregon State is going to just destroy them on the ground. They're not going to get tackled more than 12 times that entire game. So USC's offense, great. Their defense, as advertised, which is not good if you are the USC Trojans. We've got to get to a break. On the other side of this timeout, final thoughts before we get to Chiefs roster cut day here on 580 Sports Talk. Few minutes of 580 Sports Talk on this Monday, August 28th. Thanks so much for spending some time with us. I'm Brendan. He's Dan. Roster cut downs for the Chiefs coming up tomorrow.
Less than 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably it's a common question, especially in our line of work, but it's kind of a dumb question to say, are there going to be any surprises? Because that's what a surprise is. You're not expecting it.
Right.
And if you were, it wouldn't be a surprise cut or a surprise keep. But I do think that Matt Derrick was right dang near 2 months ago when he told us, hey, look, I think 48 of the 53 players on this roster are pretty much set. And granted, that's when we still expected Chris Jones was going to be with the team right now. But I agree with him. I think there's very little that is up in the air. Essentially, are you keeping a fourth running back or a fourth tight end? Are you going to keep 9 or 10 offensive linemen, or 8, I guess? And then does Nick Jones end up on injured reserve? And that's kind of all that's up for grabs, which is sort of a nice spot for the Chiefs to be in roster-wise because you don't have to worry about breaking up the band going into week 1 of the season.
So I think the thing that has the largest capacity to surprise me going into tomorrow is what they do with Chris Jones. If he is put on the did not report list, the machinations of that are to the extent where it would be very telling about where the Chiefs feel they stand with regards to Chris Jones and where they stand with regards to getting the extension done with Chris Jones. I think he's going to be on the 53. I don't think they're going to play any games with him. I don't think they're going to do anything that would cost him money more than he's already cost himself. I think he's going to be on the 53-man roster, and they're going to keep that line of communication open and keep open the possibility that they get something done this week and he's on the field week 1 next Thursday night. I think that's what happens there. But if not, all of a sudden that casts some pretty significant drama, I think, over the season, the start to the season.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, I guess, tomorrow that I'll be maybe most curious about. There's but so worked up you can get about, are they going to keep a fourth tight end or are they going to keep a fourth running back? Like,
we've probably made a bigger deal of it because there is so little expected movement.
Right. Like, unless you're Matt Bushman's mom,
Shout out to Mrs. Bushman.
Does it really like matter if they keep him or if they keep LaMichael P. Ryan instead, or if maybe they keep like an extra defensive back? Maybe they keep 11 defensive backs and they only keep 3 tight ends and 3 running backs to have another, steady hand that they trust on kick and punt coverage. That would be a surprise. I don't think they're going to do that. That would be a surprise to me. I think they've got a number of skill guys. It's going to be 3 quarterbacks, 7 wide receivers, and then 3 or 4 running backs, 3 or 4 tight ends, depending on, it'll be 3 of one and 4 of the other. I'm kind of in that school of thought. But how much does it really impact like the Chiefs' chances of winning? How much better or worse are they going to be on the fringes of the roster, depending on who doesn't make the team or who they decide to try and pass through waivers, any of that other stuff? Yeah, I don't think it's hugely impactful, no.
Here is some interesting information about Matt Bushman. He served his 2-year Mormon mission in Santiago, Chile, and he is fluent in Spanish. He's also married to the daughter of former NFL tight end Chad Lewis.
How about that?
I was looking
also a BYU tight end, I believe.
Yes, you are correct about that. He played in the league a long time. He was a long-time Eagle. In Andy Reid Eagle, in fact. Oh, see, this is why it always trickles back down to connections. Played for Andy Reid, went to BYU. Matt Bushman, playing for Andy Reid, went to BYU. It's all intertwined. I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I don't
he's
think...
definitely making the team now.
Oh, yeah.
Nepotism. As close as nepotism as you can get on the 53 man.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a weird offseason just in the sense that there's been so little intrigue, and even the signings have been like Drew Tranquil, like that signing. He's your 3rd or 4th linebacker. He's your backup Mike.
Yeah.
Richie James, like that signing.
Stability and certainty. Those are the kinds of things that you value this time of year as an organization. They're the kinds of things that we've seen the Chiefs experience over the last 5-6 years because they have put together a championship caliber franchise and they have championship caliber players up and down the roster, so that what you do in August or September to finalize 53 is only but so interesting. Nobody's battling for the starting quarterback job. Like nobody's battling for number 1 carries or number 1 wide receiver targets. We know who those guys are going to be. The offensive line is set in stone. The defensive line is set in stone. The starters on defense were known when training camp opened. There was no starting spot up for grabs. So that is good for the Chiefs. That is good for, again, that level of stability and continuity is why they have been so successful, why they will continue to be successful. Does it always make for great sports talk radio? We must confess it does not. That's why we talk so much about, nobody anywhere is talking more about Matt Bushman. They didn't talk about him this much in Provo during his playing days than we've talked about Matt Bushman the last 3-4 weeks.
We will have possibly your final Matt Bushman update coming tomorrow when all the cuts pour in. We'll, of course, be recapping all of that. We will also talk to Michael Swain tomorrow for Jayhawk Weekly. We got more Big 12 previews to get to. That's all tomorrow on 580 Sports Talk. But before we get there, we've got our final word coming up after this right here on 580 WIBW. Let's wrap up 580 Sports Talk with a final word. You're up first, Dan.
Depth charts being released for the first week of the college football season for most schools. Not if you're the Alabama Crimson Tide, because Nick Saban doesn't want to give a heads up to the mighty Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders as to who might suit up for the Crimson Tide on Saturday. Coaches at all levels, you don't have like extremely classified nuclear information with your depth charts. Let people see them. It's okay. We all know who your players are. Go whole hog. Don't put a roster out, or don't do this silliness with the depth charts.
It's so dumb. Like, Nick Saban's insane, and I think that's fair to say, because there's a reason he's great. It's because he's nuts. People who are that successful in sports, generally insane. Tom Brady, crazy. Aaron Rodgers, crazy.
Yes.
Patrick Mahomes probably hides his crazy, but I'm sure there's a little nut in there. You got to be weird, but this is just dumb. Final word for me for today. I'm just glad college football is back. We had real football that meant something this weekend. KU Friday, K-State Saturday. Best time of year is finally here, and that's football season. We do have some more baseball coming up tonight. 7:10 first pitch, 6:30 pregame for Royals and Pirates. We'll get you there after 580 Sports Talk Overtime, which is coming up at the top of the hour. We'll join you again with the full crew tomorrow at 2. For Dan Lucero and for Jake Laban, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. Talk to you then on 580 Sports Talk.